What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Friday show, gang. Getting started a little bit late, coming up on 4:19, coming up on 4:20, everybody's favorite. Was hoping to start by 4, didn't get that done. Was hoping to really start like 3, early one today. A lot to talk through. It's a big, messy 12-game Friday slate. We've also got a nice little promo that came up yesterday during the show, if you were here. Our pal Cubs fan, XX Cubs fan 23, as you guys know him, Dennis, as you might know him, took down a $10,000 prize on FanDuel the other night, 2 nights back in the $3 contest, and was nice enough to offer to sponsor some free weekly subscriptions. So we've got that rolling right now. I actually forgot to make to add that to the banner down there. Let me see if that'll fit in. I'm going to edit this guy. All right, let's see. Let's put it at the front. Free weeks. All right, so what the deal is, Dennis sponsored 15-ish free single weekly subscriptions. That will be something that if you pick it up now, after a week, it will renew at regular price unless canceled. Standard deal, right? I matched that with another 15. There are 30 of these sitting out there for you guys to go and grab. Whether you're a new subscriber, whether you've been, big barrier to entry with the $7 on the weekly fee for some people, sure, it can be, daunting, that or being able to eat on Friday night. I can understand not picking one up. So if you've been wanting to check out behind the scenes, see what the projections are like, see what the content is like, we've got free weeks rolling. I'm putting it into the banner right now. 30 remaining. Use promo code should have done this before the show, but I was busy getting this shit done. 30 of them remaining. Promo code is Cubs win, just like you see it, capital C, capital W. I don't know that actually matters, but might as well put them in. Let me make sure that's correct. Yep. So there are 30 of these. That is a 100% free first week on a weekly subscription. Again, you do not have to be a new subscriber to take advantage of that, but hopefully we do find some new people and connect via that. And again, thanks to and congrats to XX Cubs fan for sponsoring it, and congrats on the big takedown. Lot of free weeks sitting there. They'll be sitting up there for a little bit. So, go take advantage of them after the show. Certainly, it's rotoscouts.com is the website. Regular price is under $1 a day. MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL all included. Under $1 a day. Same subscription, weekly, monthly, and quarterly plans. Again, if you pick one of those free weeks up, a week from now, it will renew unless otherwise canceled at the regular price of less than $7 for the next week. Anyway, big, messy Friday slate, as mentioned, and we're going to have to hustle through it a little bit. That's fine. We can make quick time as well. It's an interesting pitching board. There are a lot of bumpy spots. There are a few interesting wrinkles. There are 3 opener-follower situations. Brandon Eisert is going to be opening for Eric Fede. Tyler Samaniego, I'm going to guess. Tyler is opening for Brian Bayo for Boston. And then Adam Mako is opening for what we think is Austin Voth coming out, but he's probably only going to go for 3-4 innings. We'll see what that looks like. Baltimore looking pretty good on the other side of that one. We've got some usable, interesting spots, but it depends on which site you're playing on for a lot of these. Like Steven Kolek, to me, going up against that Texas squad is kind of interesting. 98 on FanDuel is rough, though. 84 on DraftKings, a lot more usable. So it's one of those kind of nights. Nick Martinez coming in at 94, 76 on DraftKings, bit different. DraftKings has Kai-Wei Tang, who has had 2 good starts in a row, a little bit higher. We're all over the place on this board, which is good. Some of the matchups are all over the place. This one took some elbow grease to get into the correct spots as far as how this slate looks. Let me pull up the Vegas board to actually get us started. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as we get rolling here. Hustle, not your strength. Hustle, yes. Time management and efficiency, no. We're constantly hustling, but there's always a lot to say, and we say it all. Editing trimming things down as I'm rambling right now. Maybe not my strong suit, John, but I take your point. Larry just ordered some pizza for dinner. Meech says, sup, happy Bronx Bombers Day. Yeah, big time spot for the Yanks today, going up against Sevy, their old pal in that bandbox Sutter Field out in Sacramento. Larry says no distractions. Let's talk about favorite baseball movies. Blue Jays, Orioles, mid-fours implied totals on both sides of that matchup. Definitely looking like some usable bats on the Blue Jays side going up against Trevor Rogers, who's been a little bit rough in his last every start this season except the first three. And then the combo of Mako and Austin Voth, I think, is entirely targetable with some of those Orioles bats. So we can take down two interesting teams off the top of the board. Not really interested in pitching in that game, although Trevor Rogers has been better than he's been overall. The Marlins and the Mets, interesting pitching matchup here. Max Meyer and Freddie Peralta. Max has had a good season so far. These Mets, by and large, underperforming. Just a 3.84 implied total for them. 3.73 on the other side for the Marlins. Freddie seems obvious against that Marlins team. We know that especially when he seems obvious and when the world gets on him for DFS, Freddie can go bust from time to time. 4 earned runs over 7 to these Marlins, for example, the last time out at Miami. He struck out 9 in that game, but he allowed 2 home runs, a little back and forth there, 8 hits, pair of walks. Not an ideal start, but a potentially usable one on a messy board, and he's got plenty of upside for a much, much better day than that. We know that as well. The Angels with Walbert Urena on the mound looking like a target for some Rays bats. 4.5 implied total for them, essentially. 3.60, 3.61 coming back the other way for the Angels. They're going up against the aforementioned Nick Martinez, who has been pitching effectively, but is quite expensive on FanDuel. Less so on DraftKings, a much more interesting spot over there. But 6 innings in each of his last 2 against the Yanks, against the Marlins. 1 earned run combined. Does give up hits, has given up a fair amount of hits in his last few outings. Can put some danger into your life, but doesn't really lose too many hitters to the walk. Doesn't really strike too many guys out either, though. So a little back and forth situation there. But those Angels bats can feed you a little bit of strikeout upside. They are dangerous, though. Red Sox with Samaniego and Brian Bayo going up against a gettable Guardians lineup. That's kind of an interesting spot, but the Guards are pulling an interesting total. 4.24 implied. They have moderate power. They've got some interesting bats, especially when it comes to hitting for average, getting on base, a little bit of power, obviously one superstar in the lineup. But a usable total, definitely a frisky mid-board type team. And then the Red Sox are going up against Slade Ciccone. They're showing a little bit of power upside against Ciccone, but he can be effective when he's going right. A few good ones in a row, and overall pitching fairly well throughout the season. Only a couple of ugly starts along the way. So little usability on all sides of that one. Kind of a four corners game, but I don't love that 3.85 implied total for the Red Sox. The Cubbies going up against the Cards. 3.96 implied for the Cubs. 3.61 for the Cardinals. They're going up against Shota Imanaga. It's Andre Palante on the mound for the Cardinals, at least as of last check. They initially announced Kyle Leahy, then it switched to Andre Palante. I'm riding with that, but somebody let me know if you spotted that it changed back to Leahy or that it was just incorrect reporting. I've seen it all over the place today. That was another one of the things I had to clean up as trying to scramble through getting this big slate together. Imanaga pushing a little bit of power toward the Cardinals. They can definitely get him for the home run, but if he's in typical form, that can always come with no guys on base and be kind of a not overly terrible outcome. In his last 2 starts, that was not the case for Imanaga. 3 home runs allowed last time to Houston. Gave up 7 earned on 7 hits over 6 innings, 6 strikeouts and a walk. That's an ugly day. 2 home runs allowed to Milwaukee over 4 1/3. He gave up 8 earned runs on 9 hits, struck out 2 and walked 3 in that one. So he's really been rough in his last 2 outings. Something the Cards could take advantage of. That young Cardinals team has hit for a little bit of power. They've been more interesting than we thought. But I think, ultimately Imanaga, unless something's actually wrong in there, figures things out. So I lean more toward the guy who gives up the, maybe a long ball, but a less damaging one and has an effective day against that team. Vegas seems to agree with that. The Tigers and the White Sox, mid-4s implied totals for both of these squads. It's Troy Melton making his second start. He's really interesting. Had a good first outing over 5 2/3 against Baltimore. Could easily come out here and repeat that against these White Sox, but decent total on their side. We know there's major upside around two of the big bats, and some of the other guys have been downright interesting. Miguel Vargas is having the best year of his life. Antonacci and Meadroth are both very interesting players, especially around the hit tool. So a lot of upside in going to some White Sox against Melton, but he's very, very usable. The Tigers coming back the other way are facing Brendan Eisert as the opener and Eric Fede. Definitely a targetable spot with Tigers. We know there's power in that lineup, and they're just better than they've been. I'm going to continue to believe that. So definitely can target that a little bit. The Royals going into Texas again, want to target that Ranger squad with some pitching when they're at home. Stephen Kolek kind of fits the bill. Complete game the last time out. He is a low strikeout, soft tosser. Hope for the best kind of a starter when you roll him out there. You're not getting a big bump from strikeout. He struck out 2 in that outing, but a complete game shutout, 4-hitter against the Mariners. Give up 1 walk. Struck out 3 and walked 1 over 6 1/3 against the Cards the start before that. Again, 6 1/3 shutout innings, only 4 hits. So not bad. A couple outings in a row. Was decent. Is usable. Not my favorite option, but he's in my lineup for the Dynasty team because I need the innings pitched today. And it's, again, a good matchup. Sub-4 implied total on the Rangers, but they are pulling the larger total in that one. Mackenzie Gore going for them up against a very, very gettable right now Royal squad. That's another team that I continue to think is better than they've been. Mackenzie is mostly rounded into form over his last few outings, so I think he's going to be very usable. There's a lot of depth there. He's capable of giving you 7-8 innings on the right day. Solid lefty arm as well, so definitely interested in some Mackenzie Gore in that one. The Brewers and the Astros, 4.42 implied total for the Brewers. Not an uninteresting spot going up against Kai Wei Tang, but he's been downright good in his last few outings. He had some relief appearances, some short stints throughout the beginning, but 5 innings, 2 starts back, or 2 appearances back, I should say, because it's some relief, some starts. Let's start at the beginning, not at the beginning, on May 10th. He made a full start that day against the Reds, went 3 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, struck out just 1, walked 1, but not a terrible day for only going 3 innings. Went 5 against the Rangers in the next outing. That was a full start. Faced 21 hitters, struck out 7 of them, but walked 4. No runs allowed, only 2 hits. 6 innings against the Cubbies at Wrigley. 2 hits, no runs, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. Effective day. There's obvious downside here. He is, I think, a targetable starter, but it wouldn't stun if he was at least somewhat effective again today. And then it's Coleman Crow on the mound making his 3rd start. He's been mostly good in the first 2. One came on April 17th. The other was on May 15th. So he's starting about once a month right now. But some good outings in the minors. Pitched into the 6th inning several times in the minors. So, not a necessarily short start and a usable piece. But the Astros 4.17 implied total. Some interesting bats in that lineup. So I think at worst, that's a 4 cornersy kind of a game. And those are 2, when they're at their best, pretty good DFS offenses. The Giants going into Coors Field against the Rockies, pulling the highest implied total of the day at 5.81 implied runs. That's up against Michael Lorenzen. They're obviously usable. It's been a disappointing year for that entire collection of hitters, but it's Coors Field. It's a super gettable pitcher. Seems like the day for some Giants bats, but I think everybody's going to go to them because of that. It's Coors. It's going to be very popular, but a lot of usability there for sure. Logan Webb is making his return for the Giants. He was out with a knee issue, so I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see as far as the pitch count. He threw 60-something, 62, I want to say it was, in his lone minor league and then minor league rehab start, and then he threw a bullpen session the other day. I think we're probably still going to be limited to like 80 pitches, all's going well. He had some pretty rough outings to begin his year. So I think they get 5 and change good innings, and it could be 6 even on 80 pitches. He's capable of pitching efficiently even at Coors Field, and has been good at Coors Field in 10 starts over his career. I just question what the true depth of it looks like and what the true ceiling looks like on a slate with at least some usable pitching, even if it lacks like a premium upside top end piece. Going to be an interesting back and forth there. The Rockies, if you need a tiebreaker, 4.81 implied total speaks a little bit to some quality against and some danger for Logan Webb. But again, a pitcher we typically do like getting to under normal circumstances. I would absolutely roll with Logan Webb in that spot. Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees, going into a high danger situation against those hard-hitting Athletics in their home park in Sutter Field, the AAA park in Sacramento that we can see the ball fly out of like crazy. Solid, respectable total for the Athletics. Rodon's been just okay in his return to action, handful of walks in each of his starts, limited strikeouts, a couple few runs, but nothing too bad either. So I think he's at least usable. Lefty, there's quality there against the Athletics. But the big talking point, I think, as Meach pointed out at the beginning of the show, 5-1-1 implied total for the Yanks with a ton of thunder showing in the lineup against their old pal Luis Severino. Sevy, good on the road, pretty bad when he's at home. He is on record as saying he hates pitching in this park, and opposing hitters have done a lot of damage to him last year and so far this year in this park. He had, if memory serves, one good one. A one-run 7-inning start against the Royals back on April 29th in this park. Struck out 8 in that game. Otherwise, in home starts, 4 runs over 6 against the Rangers with 2 home runs allowed. 2 home runs allowed to the White Sox, 5-run day over 5 1/3. The clean start against the Royals, and then 2 starts back, 5 earned runs on 10 hits to the Giants, and that's a bad Giants team, as we just mentioned. 6 innings, gave up 2 home runs in that one as well, 7 strikeouts. So basically, in 3 out of the 4 starts at home, he's given up 2 home runs exactly, and he wasn't facing the Yankees on those days. Could be a big explosive day for the Yanks. That said, Yanks capable of giving you zeros on those big explosive-looking days, and Sevy is, at worst, capable of picking up the strikeout upside from time to time. The Diamondbacks, the Mariners, pitcher-friendly environment here for sure. 7-run total in Seattle. Best pitcher park in the league. 3.29 implied on the Diamondback side going up against George Kirby. And then the Mariners are facing Zach Gallen, who's been all over the place so far this year, has had a few good ones, has put together okay starts over 6 innings against the Giants and 5 1/3 against Colorado in home starts in his last 2. It's a gettable spot, but I really don't trust Zach Gallen, and I think that Mariners lineup is another one that's just better than they are. And then we close things out with Zach Wheeler in a tough spot against the Dodgers, but 4.14 implied total has an impact. Wrinkle on the FanDuel slate. Shohei Ohtani at last check, not available as a hitter. For some reason, they've got him as a pitcher today. Go figure. Thanks a lot, FanDuel. So you do lose a little bit of quality from the Dodgers, from A, facing Zach Wheeler, B, no Ohtani on FanDuel. They look a little bit better on the DraftKings slate, a little bit more Dodgers-esque. The Phillies going up against Justin Wroblewski. They're pulling just a sub-4 implied total, 3.95. Wroblewski's been good, but that's a really good Phils lineup. There's a little bit of power available there. So I wouldn't be shocked if they put up at least a decent day. Going back to the pitching board, as mentioned, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, there are 30, or at least there were 30. I don't know how many are left. Maybe it's a mad dash to go claim those free weeks. But XX Cubs fan took down a nice prize the other day, and I wanted to celebrate by sponsoring a few free weeks. I matched that with a few more. So 30 free individual weeks for your first week on a subscription are available at Rotoscouts. Go claim them with that promo code scrolling across the bottom of your screen right about now. Promo code Cubs win, capital C, capital W. It's only good on a weekly. It's your first week. Then it renews at regular price, which is under $7 for a week. And that gives you access, by the way, to baseball, basketball, hockey, and, football won't be included in that week until, if you continue on with paid weeks, you'll eventually get to football. Not this week, though. But basketball and hockey, you'll get a little bit. Kirby, top of the board, I believe. Going up against the Diamondbacks at that super low total in his home park. Looks like a good spot. 96.88. The price is down a little bit because the performance has been up and down in some spots. But I trust George Kirby at the top of the board there, and I'm happy to go to it. But as I mentioned, it's not a board with a really, really high apex type of starter who's pulling a near 40 point. We've got a few guys cracking the 30 point mark. But one of them, Zach Wheeler, going up against the Dodgers at very high prices. I fully trust Zach Wheeler to have a good day, but those are really tough prices to get to against the Dodgers. Freddie Peralta looks pretty good at 93,900. Nice little discount there and a great matchup against the Marlins. Here's your wild card. I get a nice projection on Mr. Melton. He's only 6 on FanDuel. He put up a 29-point FanDuel start in his first outing the other day. I see no reason he couldn't repeat that. It's a high-end kid. was injured for a big chunk of time there, but came back with a great debut. It's a gettable White Sox team with plenty of strikeout. It's a both-sided situation, as I mentioned, for sure. There's plenty of power showing going back the other way around the two big bats, and I do like that White Sox team. So I would hedge, but that looks like a great price for where he's projected, and I'm a believer. Imanaga going up against the Cards, sure, why not? 10-193, but there's a lot of usability on cheaper pitchers today, like Mackenzie Gore in the next spot. 86 on both sides. Super, super usable. Probably more impactful at that price on FanDuel, given how he projects compared to the top of the board, where the 86 kind of loses him in between as far as like not SP1 pricing, but certainly usable as an SP1, not SP2 pricing. Difficult to pair with any of the SP1s, but very, very usable there. That's a low strikeout quality Royals team that's been underperforming throughout the year. So it wouldn't stun, and Gore again has been a roller coaster. So it wouldn't stun if he fails in that spot, but he's at worst usable. And then we hit a big dip, right? This is like when you're walking out into the ocean and then all of a sudden there's a drop off and you drop underwater. We're not quite underwater in these mid-20s, guys, but that's a appreciable, 5-point FanDuel dip, a little closer on DraftKings. Carlos Rodon in that dangerous environment, 82.77. The price is correct. Or at least the price is right to go find out with Carlos Rodon. Nothing about him says he would have a necessarily bad day against this Athletics team. There's a little upside for a lefty there. If he finds the strikeout stuff, so much the better. And he's nicely discounted. I would say he's probably most usable as an SP2 on DraftKings at just 77. That's getting interesting. Same price as Troy Melton. Much more proven talent than Troy Melton. Max Meyer is at a crazy high price on FanDuel at 10-3. Again, he has been pitching really, really well. That Mets lineup has been pretty shaky throughout the season, but that's a tough price to pay at 10-3 on this kind of a pitching slate. I would go to it. I would use it, but maybe it renders him a little bit lower owned than he ought to be in that matchup, but I don't love that price. 98 on DraftKings, one of the second most expensive pitcher. It's kind of the same thing, but probably more utility on the two-pitcher side. Gallen against the Mariners, just benefiting from the pitcher-friendly park, benefiting from some scuffling in that Mariners lineup. 72-78, the price is correct. Kai-Wei Teng is discounted nicely at 65-75. Solid mid-board projection against a gettable enough Brewers team. Again, he's been good in the last two outings, pitching significant innings. So, totally usable. Martinez at 94, meh on FanDuel against that hard-hitting Angels team, but there are strikeouts. 76 on DraftKings, solid member of the SP2 conversation. Logan Webb, I think at 82 on DraftKings, maybe he's in the SP2 conversation because he could come out and give you a 90-plus pitch, solid full start here against a very gettable Rockies team with league worst strikeout numbers. At 8,000, I'm more skeptical even at the lower price on FanDuel just because I think I'm going to want that quality start, and I don't know that we get the full sixth inning out of him. One of the more capable guys of putting it up when everything is normal. But again, he's just coming off the IL. It was a knee, not an arm. So he's got that working in his favor, but did miss some time there. You don't love to press him too much. Coleman Crow, correctly priced or fairly priced. The Astros a little bit up and down, but it's a high danger spot. Only a mid-board projection. I think he's much more usable as an SP2 on DraftKings. Bayo's interesting at 55. He's had some really good outings where he's pitched 6-7 innings in this bulk relief role. He's also been incredibly shaky in some spots, more in his full starts than in his bulk relief appearances. It's a coin flip type situation, but that's a very low price. Kolek, as mentioned before, 98 I don't love on FanDuel. Again, he comes without a lot of strikeout upside, but the ability to work 7-8 innings here in a good spot against Texas. 84, much more interesting on DK. Robleski, don't love at 9,000 on FanDuel against Philly. That just seems rough. What's our likelihood of a really high-end start there for that kind of money? We've got all these usable guys up there. On DraftKings at 8, again, it kind of falls by the wayside just by comparison to some of these cheaper SP2 options. He's been fine, but it's a tough spot against Philly. Ciccone against Boston, mix and match kind of pitcher, but fairly priced. Affordable. Trevor Rogers, probably the same thing. 71, 6,000, but he's been really, really bad. I don't know if something's going on, if he's tipping pitches or what the case might be there, but he is just getting tattooed. Wolverine is probably an interesting target for raise bats. Fede is definitely an interesting, and his opener, Sevi, Lorenzen, you can see that these guys down here are all targets. So your deep green bargain bin down here basically doesn't exist on DraftKings today. I don't think go to Lorenzen at 53, even against a bad Giants lineup. 64 for Sevi is really challenging. 58 for Fede with less upside to a win. It just doesn't really land well. And I'm kind of iffy on that one. I think your usability on the cheap guys is those two, if we're talking about the extreme bargain bin. But I think you've got so much flexibility through some of these $7,000 options. You could probably get away without too much exposure to Crow and Bayo. Let's get into some game by game. It's 4:45. We are going to try and get out of here 6-ish. Every time I say 6, it's 6:15, so I'll say 6-ish. But the sooner the better, so that we can get on top of this slate. Interesting contest up on FanDuel today. They split the baby and went with a $5 buy-in, but a larger prize pool. One of these days, they'll run actually good contests again over there. We're going to try and get out, so we've got time to update projections and let you guys build lineups one more time before I start talking a lot about these games. Check out a free weekly subscription, 100% free, thanks to our buddy Dennis, XX Cubs fan, celebrating his big win the other day. Promo code is CubsWin, all one word, capital C, capital W. Gets you a 100% free first week on a weekly subscription over at Rotoscouts.com, which gives you access to all 3 major sports that are going on right now. Go Knicks. Enough said. Blue Jays. Solid lineup to throw at Trevor Rogers. Rogers comes in with a sub 18% strikeout rate. I was going to say sub 20, but it's sub 18. A 6.96 ERA. Remember, I said he's not been going well. Does have a 4.69 xFIP, 4.61 SIERA that are quite a bit better than 2.5 runs better than that ERA. But even if he was pitching at this level, we'd be saying, Trevor Rogers, something going on there. It looks a little bit like a target. He's been better than this in the past. Last year, 3.64 xFIP under a 1.81 ERA. He's not as good as the 1.81 ERA, obviously, but a mid threes, high threes type of a pitcher, I think is believable. 24.3% strikeout against a 6.9% walk. So all these numbers are just off the mark and have been. I think we can throw Blue Jays bats at them. They're low strikeout anyway, put a ton of balls in play. They don't draw a ton of walks. They kind of align walk rate wise, 8.7%. So there's no actual big advantage there. But I think just on the balls in play with the frequency that he's given them up this season is worth targeting here with some very affordable Blue Jays bats. On the other side, the Orioles just drawing some power here. You got 2 guys above the magic number for power. You've got Gunnar floating right underneath it, plus Adley, plus Basayo, Colton Cowser, who's caught fire a little bit with a couple walk-off home runs in the last week. Kobe Mayo, the hero of yesterday, with a cheap home run. We didn't get the Tyler O'Neill one. We got the Kobe Mayo one. I had it flipped originally where Mayo was going to be the pick of the day and O'Neill was the pick from the team, and then I flipped it back just because I like Tyler O'Neill and I wanted to get him going, and it didn't work. But Kobe Mayo got his. I'm not really interested in the opener-follower situation. By the way, when we change this to Austin Voth, the numbers do this for the Orioles. So you actually gain power by switching to Austin Voth, who's the alleged bulk reliever here. So even more reason to go to the Orioles. 4.37 implied total. Again, no interest in Voth or his opener. No real interest in Trevor Rogers. If you're going Blue Jays, George Springer's been struggling. Well documented, 87 WRC plus. George Springer last year was tremendous, and this is reminiscent of his entire career, save the year prior. That was a bad year. Showed the start of the decline. Then he bounced back. Right now, we're looking a lot more like the 2024 guy. I have some faith that he finds it. It's not because he's striking the ball well. It's not because of any underlying 304 xWOB under a 295 actual. I'm just a believer that he's not done yet. And if you're going to the Blue Jays, he's a high priority bat, especially at just 28 on FanDuel. He's still a full-fledged 4,800 on DraftKings. That's more skippable, but not a guy I want to skip. Ernie Clement, hits will focus, just get on base ahead of Vladdy, ahead of Kazuo Komodo, Dalton Varsho, the big bats here. Vladdy at 5,000, 3,000. We discussed the dip in power over the last couple of years in deep sense yesterday during that 3-game slate. Everything else about Vlad is intact at 289, 390, 371. You just fire away. It's a great looking spot going up against the corpse of Trevor Rogers here for the big righty bat. Okamoto has been hitting for power from the right side, throwing him up against the lefty who isn't really giving up a ton of premium contact, but does give up a lot of fly ball and is just struggling a lot in general and is giving up a lot of contact overall. Okamoto's one problem is that he's been striking out a lot. So you take that out of the equation, that's a lot of high-quality contact. He's hit 11 home runs so far this season, 327 xWOBA under the surface. Dalton Varsho at 4,200, another lefty with the potential to thump here. Better in years past for premium contact, particularly last year. So far, a little bit slow starting with the power, but he does have 5 home runs on the board, 260, 336, 406. He's been effective overall, just a 308 xWOBA under the 330 actual, so get him before you hit the decline. We know that he's going to go back down as far as the average, the on-base goes, but the power upside is realistic, especially against a weak, I'm sorry, this is a lefty-lefty spot. For 1 second there, it slipped my mind that there was a lefty on the mound. Let me just check where we're at lefty-lefty here on Varsho. He's made 56 plate appearances against same-handed this year, 240, 321, 360. So he's more the Dalton Varsho hitter when facing a lefty. Glad I remembered that. 1 home run out of his 5 has come against same-handed this year. For the career, Varsho, 258, 312, 373, but significantly less power output, significantly lower run creation, 91 WRC plus versus 102. So he can hit for average. He can get on base a little bit against same-handed pitching, but the power pretty much goes away. 10 home runs in 588 same-handed plate appearances versus 94 in 2013 plate appearances against righties. Going down the board, Charles McAdoo making it into the lineup at 2,500 on DraftKings, second base and third base eligible. Third base only on your FanDuel board. McAdoo, come on. In 207 plate appearances down on the farm, 8 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a solid slash line of 112 WRC plus, 16 homers, 34 steals last year, 17, and that was in Double-A, 17 homers, 21 steals across several levels the year before as a 22-year-old. Right on track age-wise, he's 24, so succeeding up through the minors, got his promotion to start this year and found a lot of success at the Triple-A level after a good Double-A season. Seems like a timely arrival for this Blue Jays lineup. If I'm going Blue Jays, min price, I'm interested in some Charles McAdoo upside, righty bat against Trevor Rogers. Miles Straw, contact hitter, maybe steals you a bag, but not overly interesting. Pinango has been effective, 291, 333, 418, 2 home runs on the board over 84 plate appearances. Mix and match option at a fair price at worst. And then Brandon Valenzuela down the bottom of the lineup has 4 home runs in 109 chances, has made uninteresting contact overall, drawn a few walks, gotten on base at a 343 clip. He hasn't been bad. Certainly usable down there, especially where you need catchers. On the Orioles side, Taylor Ward, we've talked about the lack of power output, but he's getting on base 40% of the time right now, so that's a nice trade-off. 351 WOBA with a 350 xWOBA, 125 WRC plus. I think the power eventually does come back, and this seems like a pretty good spot to go find it, so you're firing away with Taylor Ward. He's very fairly priced for the dip in power output. Gunnar is in a good spot here once we get the righty on the board, 55-34. Maybe we lose his first plate appearance, but he just hit us a lefty-lefty home run just the other day. No reason to think that he wouldn't be able to hit one off of whatever the name of the opener is. 13 on the board. Otherwise, he is really scuffling through the season, but you just ride out the struggles. You take the power upside, you ride out the struggles. He is much, much better than he's been. Not a lot of evidence for that in the 297 xWOBA under the 308. He's not been better under the surface so far this year. We just know that the talent level is much better than these numbers. Adley Rutschman has recovered his talent. 7 home runs, a solid slash line, 134 WRC plus to lead this team right now over 163 chances. Alonso leads the group in the home run model, 14.2 once Voth gets into the game. He was one of the 10-plus guys against the opener, so love Pete Alonso's upside. Struggling in the slash line, 10 home runs, maybe slightly off the pace, but I think he puts it back together, and the premium contact is there. The barrels are down somewhat, but the hard hits are right there, and a 12.4% barrel rate is still an elite level of barrels, just not 18.7 where he put up last year. Sammy Basayo, 165 pretty interesting plate appearances, 8 home runs, looks like the real deal. Easy alternate catcher for 100 less on DraftKings. 29, you can get them both on FanDuel if you want them, but then you're sacrificing Pete Alonso. So there is a compromise to be made on either side around that catcher spot. Leody Taveras, mix and match outfielder, but at fair price. Colton Cowser, major power upside for very cheap. 2,300 on DraftKings, 26 on FanDuel. He's hit 3 home runs in 117 chances, but again, 2 of them came in the last few days as walk-off home runs. He hit 16 in a year where he struggled mightily the over 360 plate appearances last year. He hit over 561 chances. He hit 24 2 years ago, 204 ISO for the season. That's a good power bat from the left side to throw into the mix here. He's drawn a 9.48 that easily could be 10 if he was hitting up here. Kobe Mayo, again, cheap home run the other day, does make interesting enough contact from the right side, 8.8% barrel, 47.3% hard hit. 6 home runs, otherwise pretty weak, 200, 273, 370 slash line. You take the good with the bad with Mayo. And then Jackson Holiday was just recently one of the top prospects in baseball. The debut, the start to the career hasn't exactly gone to plan, but we've seen that from guys before where they just need a minute to find it. Major talent, 1 home run, 3 stolen bases over 27 plate appearances this year. Did hit 17 homers and stole 17 bags last year. Had an adequate 242, 314, 375 slash line. It's just not what they expected from him. 304 WOBA, 313 xWOBA, 96 WRC plus last year. But there's a higher end talent than that. He fills second base pretty nicely on both sides at 36-28 on the team we want to get to. I believe with the power upside, this was Orioles Blue Jays on the board. Don't quote me on that, but that's how I'm going to do it here. Orioles, Blue Jays, would not want either pitching situation. John Hansen saw Joker coming through. Yeah, that tail never stops, man. Model really likes Melton, huh? Interesting, says Meach. Yeah, I like Melton too. He's super cheap, but don't let that make you think that he's not good. We'll get to this again in just a minute. Back in 2025, across the minors, 16 starts, 75 and a third, 2.99 ERA, a 2.64 xFIP. Struck out 32.4% against the 6.4% walk rate. Not bad. 4th round pick, but kind of rocketed up the board. Dealt with some injury, but back and looking effective in the first outing, 5 2/3. Had a good day. The xFIP for that game was 5.57, so pitched better on the surface as far as the results go. Might struggle to find the strikeout upside. It's not a guarantee, but the kid does look good. I think it's a gettable spot, and there are strikeouts on board for him in that matchup. But before we get there, let's talk about Max Meyer at 98.10.3. He's had a good year, 27% Ks, 2.52 ERA, but a 3.45 xFIP matching Sierra. I think that's more than mid-threes to a 4-run type pitcher when it's all said and done. But he's found some strikeout upside, nice 13.8% swinging strike rate. I will point out that he's given up 42.3% hard hits, 90 miles an hour of exit velo, 2 of the 3 categories over the line as far as the potential power output against. So something to watch there, but I think Max is totally usable. The Mets at a sub-4 implied total. You can take shares. 98.10.3, definitely not the cheapest, most bargain-based option on the board. Freddie on the other side, cheaper. 9,000 on DK, 93 on FanDuel to take on these Marlins. He just had a start against them last week that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I completely forget what the context of mentioning that was. Was it because it was good or bad? It's because, that's right, he gave up 4 earned runs but struck out 9 over 7 innings in that one. So some good, some bad in that one. Freddie can go bust on us, but by and large has been pretty decent this year. 24% strikeout, struggling with the walk at 10.3%, missing bats somewhat effectively, 11.5% strikeout rate is good. 3.91 xFIP, 402 Sierra, under the 3.5 ERA. So maybe a little bit more to give as far as some runs allowed, but an effective pitcher who is probably better than these numbers overall. Last season struck out 28%, pitched to a 2.68 ERA, but a near 4 xFIP, near 4 Sierra. So maybe a handful of runs for the Marlins, somewhere around that total is in line here. But I think Freddie finds some Ks for us at an effective price. Looks like a good option today. Let's see if we got the Marlins lineup in while I'm talking. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Check out the site for some free weeks as is scrolling across the bottom of your screen. I'm not going to say it all again, but Dennis was very generous to donate those, so I want to keep calling it out as we go. Doesn't look like the Marlins came in yet. If we get this lineup, I don't love taking shots with them against Freddie, but if we're going to downside teams at sub-4 totals, they are at least kind of interesting. Where they lose a little bit, I think, of quality for me is that the prices have kind of gone up on some of these guys, given the solid performances. It's mostly on both sides. You do still have a very cheap Kyle Stowers on both, and that's actually their best bat. Right now, over 139 plate appearances, he has not been. 306 xWOB under his 291 actual, 3 home runs, a weak slash line, and 83 WRC plus. 48.2% hard hits is only down slightly from his 50+% rates each of the last 2 years, but the 7.1% barrel is obviously way, way down from the previous 2 seasons. That's where some of the power output is gone, but that keeps Kyle Stowers really interesting and the highest end consideration, 8.91. He also dramatically leads this team in the home run model today against Freddie. Freddie, not entirely gettable as far as power output goes, good at limiting barrels inducing weak and medium contact, but Stowers would still be high priority for me, and you're keeping the discount in place. Jacob Marcy feels overpriced right after him at 41.29 on FanDuel, mix and match maybe. You only get really stolen base upside, 14 steals in 235 plate appearances, just a 321 on base, and 82 WRC plus, sub 300 weighted on base and xWOBA. No thanks, not for those prices. I'm more interested in, if I'm going to players like that, in Xavier Edwards, who's found a lot of success up at the top of the lineup. 316, 396, 481 on the season, 6 homers that were a little bit of an outlier, 8 stolen bases, but he has actually effectively been hitting the ball much, much harder this year. 6.5% barrel, up from sub 2% each of the last 3 years, 0.6 all of last year. That's the kind of change that we saw made Bryce Turang much more interesting. Just finding the barrel a little bit more. Maybe he's able to do the same thing. Overall, it's just a nice season based on the on base. He's stolen 8 bases. He's capable of much more while he's getting on nearly 40% of the time. Liam Hicks, I continue to think, has been somewhat overperforming. 353 weighted on base. The xWOB at 324 agrees with the overperformance. Not making great contact, but finding success. Very low strikeout and low and medium walk. I believe in the low strikeouts, but not as low as they are. I believe in the medium walk, but I think maybe he ends up drawing more walks. He drew an 11% in the medium-sized sample last year. Otto Lopez, another player overperforming right now. 374 weighted on base, but a solid 338 xWOB under the surface. So, yeah, he's overperforming, but if you take away some of that edge, he'd still be well above average. So I think that's an interesting enough play. 4,100, 3,200. I like him a lot more at second base than I do at that shortstop position on DraftKings. Just a much deeper position over there. So if you're going to Otto and you're playing on both sites, I think you want to target it more on the FanDuel board, but he would be a somewhat high priority play on DraftKings. You have the flexibility, obviously, back and forth between those positions with him and Xavier Edwards. They're just one of each on the DraftKings slate. Okay way to fill out your middle infield, higher priorities if you're determined to go to Marlins. Connor Norby down the bottom, Owen Casey, both able to connect with the ball a little bit. Mid-5s in the home run model, 4 home runs apiece on the season. Nothing overly special, sub 300 xWOBA for both guys. You're just fishing for contact. If you're doing that, the lefty bat, who has made more regular high-end contact, 12% barrel, 45.3% hard hit for Casey so far, would be the more interesting guy. Javier Sanoa, just a mix and match infielder at the absolute best. Hitting for a little average and getting on right now, 104 WRC plus has kept him interesting, but he's not even that much of a bat. Joe Mack, decent pedigree on the farm, 211, 262, 263 over 61 chances. Might need more seasoning. Hasn't done much of interest so far, but there is talent there for a very cheap price. The Mets, I think people know a little bit more, especially around the high-quality guys like Juan Soto. I think you guys have heard of before. Having a Juan Soto-esque type season, 12 home runs, a 301, 392, 594 slash line, 417 WOBA with a 415 xWOBA. Ridiculous contact. It's Soto. Don't overthink it. Correctly priced at his ludicrously high prices. 43.27, though, for Bo Bichette. Not bad. He's at 5 home runs. He's only scuffling at 225, 273, 317 on the side of that, though. 329 xWOBA is encouraging under that 267 actual, which is atrocious. 70 WRC plus. Really bad start to the season, but a lot of things are intact. The low strikeout, the low walk, the just regular balls in play. 44.9% hard hit is down from his last season numbers. It's more in line with a couple seasons ago. 7.5% barrel is mostly in line with where it was last season when he was very effective. So I think there's things to like in there and things of definite encouragement that he's going to pull things together overall and just lift all the numbers as the final 4 months of the season go on. Carson Bench kind of pulled himself together a little bit, doesn't fully show in the numbers at 247, 310, 333, 3 home runs, 9 stolen bases, but he's gotten more interesting, more effective, 36, 29, playable in the outfield, ultimately probably just another outfielder though. And Max Meyer, not necessarily a pitcher you want to target with a Mets team coming in sub 4. Jared Young having a good year at 348, 407, 435, but it's only 27 plate appearances, unfortunately. 143 WRC plus over 47 chances last year, similar sample size, 186, 234, 488. Little bit of talent here as a category filler, has made some good contact this year, made interesting contact at a 14.3% barrel rate last year, but there was no reliability. What he's done in this incredibly small sample so far is not strike out like he did at that 34% rate over another incredibly small sample. We just don't know, but it's a good position and it's a very fair price. If you're going to Mets, I would rather have him in the outfield, I think, than at first base. AJ Ewing has been effective since his call-up. 62 plate appearances, home run that came early, 3 stolen bases, but getting on at a 350 clip, creating runs, 107 WRC plus, an interesting 342 xWOBA under the 320 actual, has made good, not great contact so far. Mark Vientos makes very, very good contact, limiting strikeouts effectively this year at 21.1, also limiting walks at 3.9%, so a lot of well-struck balls in play. 6 home runs. We should expect better output as time goes on from Mark Vientos if he just continues doing what he's doing. 323 xWOBA under the 282 actual. Brett Beatty, another guy who can capable of driving the ball. 12.8% barrel, 46.7% hard hit last season over what was 432 plate appearances. Hit 18 home runs. I feel like people are sleeping on that. He hasn't been good this season, but he fills third base cheap when you're going to Mets. Second and third base with first and outfield also for a cheap price on FanDuel. That's a go-to player. Much more so than Marcus Semien, much more interesting at second base than Marcus Semien on FanDuel. Semien plays every day, but has been just completely terrible. Luis Torrens, just a mix and match catcher, mostly here for defense. Freddie, Max, Mets, Marlins. I do think all 4 things are at least slightly usable within their given context. Both these lineups are in. Wobble Arena, just looking like a target to me. Walking too many, low strikeout rate, 2.58 ERA that he's getting away with, but a 4.38 xFIP, 4.58 SIERA, I think speaks to a lot of the quality for the Rays. This Rays team just manufactures runs, so I'm not really concerned that he's been, limiting weak and medium contact, limiting hitters to weak and medium contact, not allowing home runs in his 7 outings, keeping the ball on the ground. That's how the Rays succeed. So let's go. That kind of works. Chandler Simpson is one of those guys who just beats everything to first base. He doesn't have to hit the ball in the air. He's stolen just 14 bases, getting on at a 327 clip, just a 263 xWOBA under that 304 actual. Dip down the lineup and just has a 91 WRC plus. But if we're looking for guys who put the ball in play and are capable of just getting to first, that is one of them. We could also put up a nice light ball into the gap that the guys just, slightly take a bad angle on, and all of a sudden he's at third base with his speed. So just a ridiculous piece. Any given slate for DFS upside. Much better, I think, for DFS scoring, fantasy scoring in general, than what his overall baseball numbers might look like. Like you might see the 91 WRC plus, the 263 xWOBA, and be concerned. But I don't think there's a call for that, and he's cheap, 29, 38 for what his upside, what his ceiling days look like. Johnny Diaz is just really good. Jonathan Aranda, just really good with power upside. All those guys are priced the same as Junior Caminero on the FanDuel slate. Little differentiation between the two up at the top on DraftKings and between Junior. What you can't do is play all 3 of them in the same DraftKings lineup. That kind of sucks. You can play all 3 of them in the same FanDuel lineup, first base util, but you're occupying your first base and your util with 2 Rays, obviously. So it depends on what you're trying to put them together with. It's been challenging in some spots where you're getting to, the lineups where there's 4 first basemen in these combined teams that I want to get to, and everybody else in that lineup kind of sucks. So the Rays are one of those teams. Like often you run into that challenge and you'll be saying, boy, do I really want Ben Williamson all that much? Ben's been fine over 127 plate appearances. Hasn't really been hitting the ball particularly hard, but doesn't strike out. Draws an effective walk rate, 268, 349, 339. 99 WRC plus, just 311 xWOBA. Not a guy who creates gigantic big DFS scoring events. So kind of lackluster as you start making those decisions of like, all right, I wanted to get to these 2 first basemen from that team, these 2 from this team. So I take 1. Now I'm compromising there, and then I'm compromising on these other positions because I want to fill out the stacks. It does create multiple layers of challenge in lineup building. But these three guys are all excellent and go-to options, 2 of 3 in any given lineup on DraftKings. Junior mashes baseballs, 13 home runs in a solid season so far, and a lot more to give. 373 XWOB under the 365 actual, and capable of even more than that. Ryan Valed's been interesting. 304, 383, 464, 372 XWOB, but a much more pedestrian, exactly league average 320 actual, or 320 expected rather. 137 WRC plus, probably ends up coming down overall, but has been managing strikeout, has been drawing walk, has been interesting over these 82 plate appearances, and has been involved in a lot of scoring. So interesting player. First base, outfield, you'd probably prefer him in the outfield at a cheap price. Richie Palacios, Nick Fortes, and Sed Mullins going down the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match pieces on the first two on Palacios and Fortes. And then Sed Mullins, your former 2020 type talent. 3 home runs, 10 stolen bases, but a really ugly slash line of 51 WRC plus and nothing to like in the weighted on base department. Nothing to like about the contact. Just throwing darts with a little bit of, memory on Sed Mullins if you go there. But that is a way to differentiate a Rays lineup with a player who can still deliver some interesting counting stat days. So I wouldn't cross Sed Mullins off. That's a solid 9-man option. On the Angels side, they're going up against Nick Martinez, who's only striking out 14.9% of hitters, but doesn't really lose anybody to walks. He's pitched to a 1.51 ERA, but he's nowhere near that good. 4.30 xFIP, 4.49 Sierra. I do think he's capable of finding an effective day, though, over 5 and change, 6 innings. Find a few Ks along the way. These Angels strike out at a 24.3% clip for this confirmed lineup. The guys that were in the league last year, 32%, but some of those samples are skewed. Jose City, I don't think was all that many plate appearances. Yeah, 36 plate appearances. So far, I'm not saying that's an unrealistic number, though. So far this year in 12, he struck out in 41.7. But a lot of Ks in a realistic sense through this Angels lineup. Just not the right guy to go find them. Overall, substandard arsenal, 99 stuff plus rating, but induces weak and medium contact. Might be capable of taking the home run ball away from the Angels, which takes away most of their potential. You can see not even Mike Trout, not Zach Neto, nobody above the magic number. A couple guys hovering around it. Several 8s and 9s in there. Also, no Jorge Soler, kind of a compromised version of this Angels lineup. Over time, we've gotten some interesting fantasy days out of Jose City down the bottom of the lineup, though he is capable of making premium contact, even in these limited opportunities. This year, interesting. Last year, some interesting. 20% barrel rate in that small sample of plate appearances. 14-6, 41-3 going back in time to 2024. So for 22-21, if I'm going Angels, I'm choosing to target Nick Martinez's downside, his visible downside, I'll say. Target some of the overperformance. City would not be out of the equation. I don't think he's necessarily interesting from the bottom of the lineup as like a wraparound guy, because historically not great at getting on base. 167 on base over 36 chances last year, 255 in a complete season, 448 plate appearances, complete for a part-time player, slash 187, 255, 366. But like I said, the interesting thing comes in the counting stats. 18 homers, 14 steals, solid runs and RBIs for that many plate appearances. So not uninteresting down the bottom of the lineup. Logan O'Hoppe is also not uninteresting, particularly where you have to play catchers. O'Hoppe, when he's struggling, strikes out too much. Right now, there's 125 plate appearances in, only 23% strikeout. He's lost all his power so far this year, not making great contact like he has in the past. Excellent premium contact numbers over the past few seasons. Those have cratered at 9.9%, but that's still almost double-digit barrels. Just 1 home run in 125 chances. I like him for more in his next 125. Nick Madrigal, just a mix-and-match slap-hitting type. No stats on the season. 2,000 on both sides, second base eligible. Definitely usable in that capacity just because he's mid-priced, but Ozzy Peraza is much more interesting on both sites if you're just looking at second base. Madrigal does have third base eligibility. You can use him there, but again, not a major source of quality. Wade Meckler, mix and match. Solid 19 plate appearances so far. Needs to keep it up and buy some faith, but he's at least been interesting. Very cheap price in the outfield. Peraza, I said I prefer, but kind of skipped over. 6 home runs, 5 stolen bases, getting some opportunities, 335 on base. They're regular, like utility, next man in, the 10th man kind of a thing, playing a lot of positions. 3 on FanDuel, just a second baseman on DraftKings, but that's probably where you want him. Joe Adele, monster power upside, struggling his way through the start of the year, though. 242, 288, 388, 89 WRC plus. Premium contact numbers are down, but the 48.2% hard hits remains interesting, especially as cheap as he is in the outfield. One of the 3 guys approaching the magic number for home run upside. Vaughn Grissom, another mix and match guy, not really holding down good numbers to start his year. Hitting third, though, just kind of makes him interesting by nature of just being directly correlated with the guys you actually want, Mike Trout, Zach Neto, and Joe Adell. Trout and Neto, 13 homers on the season for Trout. Started out on fire. I feel like he's cooled a little bit, but as far as like the just day-to-day output, but still at 239, 405, 487, still has a 249 ISO, 420 xWOB under his 390 actual, ridiculous contact, 21% barrels. Very much Mike Trout. Zach Neto makes great contact, solid option at short, 10 home runs on the season. I would ignore the 233 average. He's still getting on at a 341 clip, so who cares about batting average? 345 weighted on base. Ugly 328 xWOBA, though. That's something to note. Last season, he had a 344x under the 337 actual. It was better. What was it? What did we lose? Some contact? Yeah, hard hit rate down, 38.6, down from 46.6. That's probably your culprit for that. So just not delivering the premium batted ball events that we're looking for with as much regularity. That'll knock your xWOBA down in a hurry. But we know that it's there. So no reason to scratch Zach Neto or even downgrade him at all in this matchup against Nick Martinez. Wouldn't surprise if Martinez continued his role here. I don't like the 94 at all on FanDuel because he comes with limited strikeout potential. You do have an angle toward a quality start there, toward a win there for sure with the Rays. 76 is way more interesting for Martinez on DraftKings. I would say this goes Rays bats, Martinez on DraftKings, Angels bats, Martinez on FanDuel, and Wolverine buried somewhere down toward the bottom. Sox in the guards. Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I think on DraftKings, as WDN is asking, that Nick Martinez is very playable. I just don't love the FanDuel price for his strikeout potential. You don't need him to go out and strike out 7-8 hitters or even book a quality start necessarily at that DraftKings price. So SP2 DraftKings, totally usable. But again, overperforming. I don't believe at all that he's the pitcher that he's looked like so far this season. UC Charm, any home run props tonight? If you go to Rotoscouts.com and use promo code CubsWin, you can get yourself a free weekly subscription that gives you access to the all of the projections that you see here for one. So you have all of the home run models for every single hitter who will be on the slate, but you'll also have my home run picks there. Home run pick of the day, yet to be revealed. It's one of the late games. It's kind of an obvious one, to be honest. I took an easy way out after my disappointment with not getting the Kobe Mayo one yesterday. Greg says he's just not even trying to get strikeout. Yeah, look, I'm not going to bet Nick Martinez for a strikeout prop, even if it was like 4.5. I don't think that's playable. But for a DFS share as a cheap SP2 on DraftKings, then yeah, there's a lot of just viability there. Could write the site in the chat. It is scrolling across the bottom of your screen there. But there you go. It's also the name of the Twitter handle and several other things in the title of the show. Rotoscouts.com, Rotoscouts.com, Rotoscouts.com. Isn't that how the Hot Wings guy does it? Yeah, sure thing, you see. And I'll call out, home run picks. As you're looking at this, the home run column is this one. And again, all these numbers are available for you on the website. But anything over 10 is like over the magic number. That's a pretty significant opportunity. On the website, if you look I make a pick from every single team, and then I make like my overall home run call of the day, which, as I note in there, I go back and forth trying to find some lower owned options sometimes. And, I DFS it a little bit, but they're all legit picks. But I've added in the probabilities from the Fangraphs game sims as well to the home run pick column now. So you get those as well. So you can see, the alignment between an 11.68 and like 4.9% or whatever Willier's at. Willier looks pretty good here. Solid lefty. We like that bat a lot around here. Having a great year. Seeing opportunities against left-handed pitching this season. Barreling baseballs regularly, although it's a little bit down from last year. Hard hit rate, same thing. But he's managed strikeout better this year. He's walking at a similar clip. He's very affordable at 4,000, 3,000 across sites. 6 home runs on the season, but a 286, 349, 433 slash line, matching 346 weighted on base in xwOBA. Solid run creation numbers. That's an excellent option if you're considering Red Sox. They're going up against a pretty solid version of Ciccone. Well, I shouldn't say that. 5.18 ERA, a 4.27 xFIP is what I was thinking of when I said that. 4.29 Sierra, 18.6% strikeout rate. It's capable of more than that. Where's my Ciccone? 2 starts back, 7 1/3, gave up 2 earned, struck out 4, walked 2, home run allowed. That was at Detroit. 5 innings start against Philly the last time out, struck out 5, 3 earned runs allowed. Meh. So he's had a couple short outings, 4 innings against the Angels, 7 strikeout day back on May 12th, but gave up no runs, 5 hits, 5 1/3 of 2-run ball. He's really only had 3 bad outings, a 5-run day, a 6-run day, and another 6-run day. 2 of those were before April 20th, though, so as we're just getting the season underway. Ciccone last year, 20% strikeout against a 5.9% walk, 4.30 ERA with a 4.09 xFIP, 4.19 Sierra. Again, I continue to think he's around that 4-run type pitcher, and probably more closer anyway to a league average strikeout rate over time. That's a lowish total at 386. I think this is a back and forth situation. I'm not sure which side of this I like better. There's a lot of usable bats on the Red Sox. 213, 279, 386. Uncharacteristically slow start for Jarren Duran, but I believe that's come up a little bit in recent outings. I think he's pulling it together. We know that he's much better than those numbers. Let's see what he's done since the 15th. Since May 15th, totally arbitrary day, but 320, 407, 660, a 189 WRC plus, 4 home runs, 7 runs, 10 ribbies. That's Jarren Duran pulling things together in an awful hurry. 45.32, not incorrect pricing, definitely affordable. Sedan Rafaela, we're just looking for counting stats. We know that the average, the on base will come down somewhat. The WRC plus probably will as well. That's what the 305 xWOB is telling us, but always good for counting stats. Interesting in the 2-hole. Totally miscast up there, but that's where he's hitting, so you can go there very easily. Wilson Contreras has a 10.12 in the home run model. He's hit 11 to lead this team so far this year. That's a definite upside bat, makes great contact. 397 xWOB under his 392 actual. He's been tremendous. 148 WRC plus. The only thing you're concerned with there is the strikeout rate at 25%, but Ciccone's not really putting away the strikeouts. Yoshida, solid line drive option, get on base, 347 on base, 323 WOBA with only a 308 xWOBA so far this season, 101 WRC plus, has lost a little bit of barrel in this small sample. He's only got a half the plate appearances the other guys do. I like him to just find a few upside batter ball events along the way and just push that xWOBA back up somewhat. But you're just looking for the line drive, the base hits, low strikeout, a lot of balls in play, also capable of drawing the walk at 11% so far this year, but that was lower the last few years. So again, it's just more about finding more balls in play and just finding the barrel a few more times. I think he'll be fine, and he's very cheap. Mickey Gasper, IKF, Marcelo Mayer, Caleb Durbin. 2 of those 4 guys are among the worst options on the slate, I continue to think. IKF does hit for average from time to time. They're just poorly struck balls that drop in for singles. If that's what you're looking for, he's right there. 2,300, 2,200. He's a usable piece to round out a stack, but he's not overly appealing. Marcelo Mayer, despite the much worse slash line over a larger sample, the 60 WRC plus, the very ugly weighted on base and xWOBA, makes much better contact, creates bigger DFS events most of the time when he does connects less frequently, but similarly priced, same positions. I prefer Marcelo Mayer. Call me crazy. Mickey Gasper is a usable catcher piece, 47 pretty interesting plate appearances so far. Caleb Durbin's been one of the worst bats in baseball, over 168 plate appearances in a growing sample. So IKF, no thank you. Caleb Durbin, no thank you. Mayer's more interesting. Mickey Gasper's playable. On the Guardian side, 4.24 implied for them. Going up against Brian Bayo, who's found some effectiveness in this bulk relief role. He has a 6.43 ERA, but a 4.35 xFIP, 4.52 Sierra. Brian Bayo is definitely a gettable pitcher, but I don't think there's any guarantee on these Guardians. For one, it's kind of an up and down lineup as far as their offensive production goes anyway. But for 2, if you get anything like the Bayo that had a 7-inning bulk relief appearance against the Tigers, in which he gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits, struck out 7. A 6 1/3 inning bulk relief appearance against the Phillies, in which he gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits, struck out 5, and walked 1. He was tremendous in those two. He had a bumpy day in a full start against Atlanta. They took him out of the bulk relief role, made him have a full start, but then came back off of a 7-run day in that outing against Atlanta to face the Twins again in bulk relief. Went 5. This is his most recent outing. Gave up 2 unearned runs, struck out 5, walked 1 over 5. Upside for 6 clean innings here from Bayo at 5,500. I think that keeps him on the SP2 board on DraftKings, despite the lowered percentage of probability of getting a win with the opener in play. You're not playing the opener. You can definitely roster some Guardians bats. This is the confirmed version of the lineup. I hate the opener follower with projected lineups when they're different hands. Travis Bazzana off to a great start, 39.36, fully priced on FanDuel, but DraftKings has not caught up. FanDuel's reactionary pricing in some cases is not incorrect. Bazzana is a top-end prospect, 302, 407, 458 over our 113 plate appearances that went by in an awful hurry. 3 home runs, 7 stolen bases, a 149 WRC+. Kid's just good, and good right out of the gate like several other rookies we've seen this year. 53 feels a little bit light for Jose Ramirez, 39 on FanDuel, 8 home runs, 20 steals, overreacting to the low batting average right now. He's still Jose Ramirez. He's doing most of those Jose Ramirez things we're looking for, so just fire away. If you're going to the Guards, the reason to go to Guardians here. Chase DeLauder at 44.33, 5.46 in the home run model. He's got 7 on the year. They came in a hurry in the beginning of the season, but 260, 342, 438. He's had some interesting games without the long ball. 353 weighted xWOBA under the 346 actual, 122 WRC plus. Currently leads the full sample guys on this team. Second to the 149 from Travis Bazzana, over half the sample. 34.29 for Rhys Hoskins. He's got a 6.5 in the home run model. He's hit 5 on the year. He's also sub Mendoza, but getting on at a 335 clip, kind of a 3 true outcomes type of a bat right now. Major source of power upside from the right side. Somebody you could throw into the mix against the, maybe he picks one off against the opener for us early, then goes into the tank once Bayo comes in. Bayo is good at suppressing power by and large. Keeps the ball down to effective levels. Right now at a 4.31% home run rate with some blips in there. Last year, 2.29 on a 9-degree average launch, 2.71 on a 6.2-degree average launch the year before. So we know that Bayo is a pitcher that can take the long ball away. I like Hoskins better against the opener than his full game fate here, but he'll be in the lineup and has significant power upside. Manzardo is the first baseman you probably want, though, where you're making the decision on DK. You can get them both on FanDuel. Take the lefty bat with power upside and similar premium contact numbers against the bulk reliever here. 9 home runs on the board for Ano Martinez. 8 stolen bases, but just a 246, 284, 458 slash line raises a lot of questions. So does the 306 xWOBA under the 324 actual, which is only slightly above league average. I continue to think that Ano Martinez was overperforming, and we've probably already seen the best part of his season. You're kind of paying a tax for it at 43.33, honestly, on both sites. Just another outfielder talent-wise. Second base maybe renders him a little bit more interesting on FanDuel, but then you're probably bypassing Bazzana, which you don't really want to do. Mix and match level talent, if all things considered. Daniel Schneemann can make interesting contact. 11.4% barrel, 41.7% hard hit last year. Lower in both categories this year, but does have 4 home runs, 3 steals, and just 164 chances. Last year in 422, he was bad as far as the slash line, but did hit 12 homers, stole 9 bags. There's a little bit more quality for DFS there than there is reliability in the overall sense. Fills a lot of positions at a fair price. Patty Bailey, fantastic pitch framer, should work wonders for this pitching staff once they really find it and get things going. One of the reasons I traded for Tanner Bybee before that meltdown the other day. At the plate, Patty Bailey leaves things to be desired, especially so far this year. 2 home runs, 2 steals, but 140, 207, 206 slash line, and a 20 WRC plus. Brian Rocchio this year, maybe here for more than defense. We'll see where it lands. I'm not a believer yet. 360 weighted on base, but a 325 xWOBA, I think, tells the true story. 3.2% barrels and 32.9% hard hit is right around where he's been the last few seasons. Has never been a significant bat. 4 home runs, 9 steals on the board, a 298, 379, 421 slash line, a 131 WRC plus. I can't in good conscience just kind of skip him and say that he's just here for defense now, but I still don't really trust him, don't really want him at short. What I will say is that for the numbers he's put up so far this year, he is still pretty cheap on DK, so you're not really paying a tax there. FanDuel, I think the position and the price are both kind of a tax. Guardians bats. Brian Bayo on DraftKings. Red Sox bats. Slate Ciccone on either site. Bayo at 69 on FanDuel. Again, you're not getting the quality start for sure, but if he goes 6 or 7, he's put up solid bulk relief scoring for that kind of a price. I wouldn't write him off, but I would rank him probably the least appealing out of the 4 things in this game. Cubbies, Cardinals. Right now, or at least when I put the salaries in earlier, Nelson Velasquez was not available on the DraftKings slate. We'll see if they added him. That's an interesting enough bat at the dead min price on FanDuel, 8.63 in the home run model going up against Shota Imanaga. Imanaga, as mentioned, has really struggled with the long ball in a couple recent outings, and there have been guys on base creating some catastrophic earned run situations in a couple of games recently. 3 home runs allowed last time out against the Astros, gave up 7 earned in 6 innings. 2 home runs allowed over 4 1/3, give up 8 earned runs on 9 hits to the Brewers that start before that. Overall, though, this is a very high-end starter who just happens to give up blip home runs here and there. Even with those bad days, 3.83% home runs, 9.7% barrel below the line in all 3 of the contact categories. Where the home runs tend to get out on him is that he's just a fly ball trajectory pitcher, 17.4 degree average launch. You could see last year at a 21.8% degree average launch, give up a 5.47% home run rate. So you can hit the long ball against Imanaga, but he was effective in spite of that with a 3.73 ERA last year. 4.51 xFIP, 4.36 SIERA is maybe the truth. This year, 4.04 ERA, 3.52 xFIP, 3.43 SIERA. You figure it out. Andre Palante, not overly appealing for DFS purposes. 10 okay starts, 3.76 ERA, 4.16 xFIP, 4.23 SIERA. Doesn't really find the strikeout upside. 73 on DraftKings, you're getting like the same option as like a Nick Martinez. It's not really appealing, but he's playable at the cheap prices, and SP2 just kind of in the mix. Cubbies have really been scuffling overall over the last few weeks, but that is a much better lineup than they've been recently. What Palante typically injects into the mix, though, is the ability to keep the ball in the yard. 3% home run rate, that is a little bit high. Last year, it was 2.94, and I guess 3 isn't a little bit high. 1.57 2 years ago in a 20-start sample, 1.99 in 68 relief innings the year before that. So slightly high, a little bit of happenstance there. 6.8 degree average launch, good at inducing weak and medium contact. Does take a weapon away from these Cubs a little bit. But Palante, capable of losing guys to the walk, doesn't really strike anybody out. These Cubs are excellent at drawing the walk. They have some strikeout in the lineup, but not problematically so. So I think that, 4-run implied total for the Cubbies puts them on the board at least somewhat from like the mid-board type position, and renders Palante just like a mid-board DraftKings type option. 83 on FanDuel. I question the value even at that level. He is capable of giving you 6. He's completed the 6th 4 times this year. Quality start in 3 of those. I don't love it at price on FanDuel. Would play Cubs bats against, as mentioned, they're going to start firing again. Just with the ability to get on base that this team has, it's going to lead to big run scoring days, and Palante's totally gettable, doesn't strike people out. So solid bat on ball opportunities for a team that puts solid bat on ball. If they don't do that, they're drawing walks, getting to first base, and sequencing the hell out of a pitcher like this on a good day. PCA up at the top for 46.32, entirely playable. He's really rounded into form recently, as we looked at yesterday. 6 home runs, 12 stolen bases, pulling the slash line together. 96 WRC plus. The xWOBA keeps climbing. So does the actual WOBA, but the xWOBA going up even further is even more interesting. Means there's just more to give. He's making good contact and back to the top of the lineup. So super interesting up there. Nico, excellent contact hitter, 4 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 339 on base, a 105 WRC plus. Key piece if you're going to the Cubbies. Michael Busch has underperformed the contact he's made this year. He's dramatically underperformed what we saw from him last year, but he's drawn a ton of walks. He's getting on base at a 367 clip. Even with the struggles on his batted ball events, on his home run total, on his slash line overall, still a 120 WRC plus, a very interesting 356 xWOBA. Alex Bregman, another player, just kind of bouncing along so far this season, but an elite 340 on base, or a very good 340 on base, not quite elite. 102 WRC plus, so still a positive run creator, low strikeout, plenty of opportunity for Alex Bregman to put 3-4 balls in play with authority today. Ian Happ continues to homer, 12 on the season, a 351 on base to go with that, 129 WRC plus. Excellent, excellent bat for power upside, for ability to draw a walk. Striking out a little bit uncharacteristically too much this year, but excellent at the plate and a premium option for just 39. 34 on FanDuel is not a bad price. 39 on DraftKings is a great price to find Ian Happ. Seiya Suzuki at 47, 31, 7 home runs. You're just looking for the premium contact upside that he comes with. Right now, striking out at a 26.2% clip. That's up slightly from last year. 10.9% is exactly where it was, but that's kind of just who Suzuki is. He'll go through some dips where the slash line doesn't look as great, but he's getting on base effectively and has the ability to hit the long ball even against a pitcher who keeps the ball in the yard. Michael Conforto, solid lefty to throw into the mix. 278, 391, 556, 4 home runs. Looking in the limited plate appearances over 87 chances, a lot like the old Michael Conforto. That's kind of interesting at those prices. 13.7% barrel, 52.9% hard hit. Carson Kelly, more of a mixer at catcher, but 152 pretty effective plate appearances for him as well. 306, 388, 396. Nothing to argue with there. Dansby, the slash line doesn't look great. 7 home runs, 4 steals, kind of bouncing along now. Is drawing a good walk rate, is still making good, not great contact, but the contact is down for him. I'm starting to get a little concerned. Before it was all looking okay under the surface. Now we're losing a little bit. Still would go to him in various combinations of Cubs, but it depends on what I'm sacrificing at shortstop at that point. Nice and cheap, though, for the quality. JJ Weatherholt, 47-36. Not unfair. He's had some really good DFS days, hitting the ball in interesting ways so far, not really striking out, drawing plenty of walk, 351 on base, 117 WRC plus, really interesting through the weighted on base categories, 234 average, but who cares? Ivan Herrera is very interesting at 3,900, hits second all the time, 10.39 in the home run model. He's hit 6 homers on the season. Excellent slash line at 264, 394, 23. I cannot figure out why DraftKings, the mandatory catcher site, continues to put him at that price. He's a $3,600 option that you don't need his position on FanDuel. And that's correct. Weird. I mean, we're talking about like 600 something plate appearances now. Yeah. 700? 698 plate appearances of excellence over the last season plus. Out of old Ivan here, Ivan. I don't get it. Take advantage. That's a really good catcher one-off to consider against this version of Shota Imanaga. Even if you're not taking the rest of the team, just keep that in mind. That is an excellent, excellent catcher bat. Probably doesn't get all that popular with the team at a 3.61 implied total either. Could easily pick off a home run against Imanaga here and be just fine to pay that share off. Jordan Walker, we love for power upside, 15 home runs, one of our guys around here. If you're new here, this was our guy that we've been on since going back several years. But this year, he's finally delivering for us. 300, 367, 576, monster weighted on base numbers, excellent contact numbers, fire away 52-41. Another upside play from this Cards lineup. Again, Velasquez capable of making good contact for a cheap price on FanDuel. Really interesting way to round out a 4-man if you're playing this team on FanDuel just for the home run upside against Imanaga. In 230 plate appearances for the 2024 Kansas City Royals, he had 8 home runs, slash just 200, 274, 366. You're talking about a home run or bust type option. Across 2 teams, I forget which 2 in 2023, he hit 17 home runs in just 179 plate appearances, 352 ISO over that stretch. Obviously, he's not that talent, or he would have been in the majors since then. But the ability to hit the long ball is very much there. That was with Kansas City and the Cubs. He started the year with the Cubs and then went to Kansas City that year. That's a massive home run total, though, for that few plate appearances. So there's at least a little something with that option. In 163 AAA plate appearances so far this year, he has 7 home runs on the board at 232, 344, 420 slash line. But keep in mind, you were talking about a 27-year-old who's been in the show and hit for power there before. 11 home runs in 210 AAA plate appearances throughout last year with Kansas City and Pittsburgh's organizations. 234, 310, 447. Did have a interesting 79 plate appearances with Pittsburgh once he landed there. 5 of those home runs came in that 79 plate appearance stretch, slash 284, 329, 554 in that tiny sample. Again, we're just long ball hunting against a pitcher who's been coughing him up. I didn't know if he would be in the lineup. I wanted to make him the home run pick of the day, but then he wasn't on DraftKings either. So I went in a different direction and just used Jordan. Or I wanted to make him the home run pick from the cards, not the overall. But I just went with Jordan Walker, the layup in that role. Alec Burleson's had a somewhat interesting year: 282, 351, 447, 126 WRC plus. I believe he's their senior member of this team. 4,000, 3,400. Don't love the price here, but at least you can put him in the outfield for that money. 4,000 at first base kind of works on DK. I want a higher end first baseman most of the time. Lefty against Imanaga's probably not going to do him any favors either. Mason Wynn, overrated, mix and match piece. Jose Fennerman, mix and match piece at catcher, very, very cheap. Sagisi and Victor Scott, not much quality down the bottom of the lineup. They are very cheap, but not a ton of playability there. So you're talking about a short 5-man lineup against a pitcher who's better than he's been, but maybe targetable for the power upside. I would say it's got to be Imanaga, Cubs, Cards, those two things probably fairly close. And then Palante bringing up the bottom of the board. Palante mostly only playable on DK. 538. 538. We've only got half the slate left to talk about. Cool. Troy Melton, as mentioned, phenomenal minor league numbers. We will see what it looks like in the show, but the debut was pretty good. 3 above average pitches in the debut. Didn't really find the strikeout stuff in that outing, but put up a 29 FanDuel point day. It was 5 2/3. He gave up 1 earned on 2 hits to Baltimore at Baltimore. Struck out just 3 and walked 3, but an effective day. I will take that at these prices. So I think he's super interesting at 77 on DK and at 6,000 on FanDuel. Even if he doesn't find a quality start, even if he gives up a few runs to these frisky White Sox bats, and he most certainly could, a few shares is entirely warranted. I don't think that projection's incorrect. There are strikeouts in this White Sox lineup, 23.8% for this confirmed lineup so far this year. It's an interesting pitcher. The White Sox using an opener ahead of Eric Fede. He doesn't matter. Fede also not somebody you want to roster on the mound. 5.47 ERA, 5.22 xFIP. That doesn't really betray that much. 5.53% home run rate. So we can definitely extract some upside for power from the Tigers. They're surprisingly, just kind of mid. 10.69 is your high point, couple of 9s in there. Still missing Kerry Carpenter's big bat, takes a little bit of the power output out of this lineup, but there are some major sources of power. There are some underperformers who we can definitely roster at cheap prices. I like the looks of this Tigers team at a 4.36 implied total. Would not go to Eric Fede in a bulk relief role. Kevin McGonigal at price 46.33, highly usable at short, but third base eligibility makes him desirable. 12.9% strikeout, 13.7% walk, 3 home runs at 291, 394, 422 slash line, an ideal leadoff hitter to pop in ahead of some of the power bats like Dylan Dingler, who's got a 12.9% barrel rate, 10 home runs over 208 plate appearances, only 43 on DK, 31 on FanDuel, where you can pretend he's their first baseman. Totally works. Jahmai Jones, 11.6% barrel and 48.8% hard hits over 73. Pretty ineffective plate appearances. 164, 233, 284. Doesn't really align with that kind of contact. 2 home runs on the board. There's probably more quality there than we've seen. 325 xWOB under the 236 actual kind of backs that up. That is just around the league average. So I wouldn't expect him to turn into a superstar, but he doesn't need to at these prices. Hitting third in this lineup, that's a usable piece. Riley Green, monster power upside. 4 home runs on board. Off pace a little bit for that, but 304, 398, 436 is a tremendous slash line. 376 WOBA, 367 xWOBA to back it up. Making great contact, just not finding the home run ball. The barrels are down a little bit. The hard hits are up. Just doing slightly different things at the plate, but remains tremendous. The best bat on this team. Spencer Torkelson, struggling this year. He goes up and down year after year. It's like an every other year thing. It's weird. 8 home runs, a 205, 312, 400 slash line, a 102 WRC plus. Is still finding some effectiveness via the walk. It's helping the on base. 312 is a bad on base percentage, but could be a lot uglier if he wasn't drawing the 12.1% walk rate. Is still making interesting contact. 14.7% barrels, 44.8% hard hits against the pitcher, giving up ridiculous contact, ridiculous home run totals. I like Torque for a potentially sneaky home run at just 29.27, 9.09 in the home run model, not nothing. Wensil Perez can break off good fantasy games from time to time. He really hasn't done so over 137 opportunities. Does have 4 home runs, 3 steals, but otherwise pretty ineffective so far this year. He's better than those numbers, has made more interesting contact in the show, did so throughout last year. Low strikeout, medium walk rate so far this year. You expect more strikeout and the walk's not really to change. Some ugliness basically across this line without really much to support any kind of additional upside from this year. But last year with 13 home runs, a 318 weighted on base, just a 310 xWOBA, but did have a 103 WRC plus at the end of the year. That's what we're talking about. That's why he only cost 25-24. He's not what I'd call good, but he's somebody who can create a decent DFS scoring event. Vierling, McKinstry, and Zach Short, pick one. You don't want more than one of those guys. They're mix and match pieces. If you can get a Tiger stack together without having one in your lineup, so much the better. Any one of those guys can deliver a base hit. They're not big-time power bats. Vierling does have 4 home runs on the season and 160 chances. Otherwise, terrible numbers across the board. He hit 1 in 100 chances last year. He hit 16 in 567 in what was his best season back in 2024. I would say out of the 3, probably do like Vierling the best, but he's the most expensive, and he's not giving you all that much more than the other 2. The White Sox at a 4.23 implied total going up against Troy Melton here. Do you think there's usability there? Already mentioned, Murakami and Montgomery, obvious. Murakami at 20 home runs on the season. Ludicrous numbers across the board for a rookie. He's no actual rookie, 8, I believe, years in NPB. Put up, Hall of Fame track numbers throughout those 8 years, starting at age 18, I believe. Just nothing about what he's done is all that surprising. I know the numbers are eye-popping, but they're really honestly not that surprising. He's going to go through dips, though, as we go on. 382 xWOB is tremendous, but it comes under a 406 actual. So you should expect some slight decline as far as like the average. Probably not going to draw. He's already down to an 18% walk rate for a while there. He was at 20+%. So there will be some correction along the way. But these are the numbers that I think, you can expect to continue as far as the power output and the general nature of the hitter. I was calling him a Kyle Schwarber light potentially at the beginning of the year. He just looks like a Kyle Schwarber. So absolutely fantastic option, 53.41, 12.9 in your home run model. Colson Montgomery, the other guy over the magic number, 11.08, the other major source of power with 13 home runs on the board. Don't sleep on Miguel Vargas' power output, though. He's actually outstripping Monty in both barrels and hard hits on the season, right behind him with 12 home runs on the board. 389 xWOBA under the 367 actual is actually really interesting when Montgomery comes in with just a 329 under his 350. You want all 3 of those guys in most of your White Sox builds. If I'm sacrificing one, it's still probably Vargas. I still believe more in the talent of the other 2. And I do think there's a conversation to be had there because, again, Chase Meadroth, really interesting. 38-28, effectively cheap. Fills second base on both sites. Slashing 269, 344, 388, a 109 WRC plus. He's up to 5 home runs that are a little bit surprising. We're not looking at Chase Meadroth for power, but he's found the barrel more regularly than he did throughout last year's pretty solid debut when he was just kind of a hit tool focused player. Sam Antonacci's also found the barrel a little bit in his debut. 7.5% so far over 150 very interesting plate appearances. 286, 385, 381. Even if he's not finding the barrel or the hard hits regularly, that's an ideal leadoff hitter for this team. 7 stolen bases, a 385 on base, creating runs 24% better than average. Super interesting xWOBA. That's a good player. These White Sox are getting good in a hurry. I said they would at the beginning of the year. This is ahead of the pace I thought they would. They're really interesting from 1 through 5. Then we kind of hit the bricks a little bit. Andrew Benintendi, not a special player. 228, 273, 361 line is kind of who Andrew Benintendi is. He's made interesting contact this year. He had an interesting barrel rate in a medium sample last year. I think he's playable as a dart throw DFS option, but I don't have any faith. I don't think there's any real reliability. 6.29, one of the team leaders in the home run model, but give me Miguel Vargas over Andrew Benintendi every time. Tristan Peters, mix and match quality talent. 274, 342, 385 right now, has been effective over 153 and remains awfully cheap for that kind of line. Just a 291 xWOBA completely betrays any of that under the 328 actual. I think it probably all goes away, but if you're just throwing darts, that's a cheap dart to throw. Rico Nishida, I got it out. Rico Nishida, 222, 222, 222 over 9 plate appearances. I got to confess, I do not know much about Riku. I knew that he was here because we've been projecting him the last couple of days. First time we've had to talk about him. 209 plate appearances down on the farm. He's 25 years old. 323, 449, 384 slash line. No power whatsoever. So just another light contact type. And seems like the one, if anything's real about these 2 guys, finding a little bit more premium contact and power, Nishida is very unlikely to do so based on just a quick glance at these numbers. Drew Romo having a solid year for power output with 5 home runs and 65 opportunities. Everything else kind of sucks about it. 123 WRC plus in the limited sample. 3,500, I feel like probably a little too expensive. That should be like a $2,000 or a $2,500 catcher, even on DraftKings. 29 on FanDuel, mix and match piece at the absolute best. Again, you're talking about the top 5 here if you're going to White Sox at all. Kind of prefer the Troy Melton side given the pricing. It's really all about the pricing. But I do believe that the projection is not that crazy off in this matchup. Melton, Tigers, White Sox. Don't play White Sox pitching. Royals and the Rangers. Mackenzie Gore, 55 innings of up and down level performance. 4.42 ERA, 3.96 xFIP, a little bit better. 26.6% strikeout rate is fine, 11.2% swinging strike, but way too many walks at 11.2. He's losing quality to the walks. Also giving up some premium contact, just a 2.58% home run rate, but a lot of fly balls on a 9.7% barrel, 42.4 on the hard hit, just 88.9 miles an hour of exit velo. So he's been manageable in that category, probably what's saving him in the home run department. It was pretty similar throughout last year, though. Was even worse as far as the exit velo. Over the line in all 3 of those categories, actually. Was pretty damn lucky to be at just a 2.94% home run rate last year, now that I'm looking at it. 27.2% strikeout, 4.17 ERA, but a better xFIP, better Sierra. We've seen Mackenzie Gore break off numerous very good fantasy starts in a row and have great stretches, but we also know that he can go into the tank a little bit. Had a great one last time out against the Angels, 6 innings, struck out 7, walked 2, 1 earned run on 1 hit. Fantastic start. At Coors Field, just an inning. Was that? I don't know what happened there. On the 18th. Did he come out of the game for reasons? Oh, he did, right? He came out with was it a leg issue? But then made his next start, so it seems like he's fine. I think that's what that was. Gave up 2 earned runs in the 1 inning at Coors Field. But prior to that, an 8-run start against Arizona in Texas, 1 earned run on 3 hits, struck out 5, walked 1. The earned run came on a solo shot. Not problematic there. And then a bumpy ride through the beginning of the year. Handful of earned runs. It only peaked at 5 in 2 different outings, though. 3 in all the others, or 3 at most in all the others. So it wasn't maybe as bad as it might be blown out to be, as that 4.42 ERA might look like. 86 on both sides against a scuffling Royals team. Lefty, prime for maybe some success, especially against the bottom of the lineup, which takes 2 of their, better than they've been this year bats out of the equation. You're dealing with some very good righties up at the top of the lineup, but I think Gore's in play. Stephen Kolek at 84.98. I don't like that FanDuel price at all, but I'm interested in the pitcher in this spot. Again, he's in the lineup for the Dynasty team this year. Made some interesting starts last year. So far in his 4 outings this year, not a strikeout pitcher by any means, 14.3% against a 5.1% walk rate, but capable of eating innings, capable of putting up clean innings, as we just saw in his complete game shutout the last time out. 4 hits, no runs against Seattle, 2 strikeouts, a walk. I'm not going to say a similar start is necessarily in line, but a representative start, 6-7 innings, something like the 6 1/3 that he put up at St. Louis, the start before that one. 4 hits, no runs in that one, 3 strikeouts and a walk. He could do that against this Rangers team. I don't think there's a massive ceiling outside of what he can accrue through innings pitched, which is why I don't love the FanDuel price. But I think a quality start bonus is in the books. Maybe a win. Who knows? The things that are in his control, though, I kind of like. I think he's very effective at 84 on DraftKings. Not priced down as much as I would maybe like, but doesn't have the problematic $9,800 price tag like on FanDuel. Royals bats against Gore. I think you're mostly focused on those righties up toward the top, but I wouldn't be against sneaking in one of either Vinny or Jack Caglianone down the bottom of the lineup. For one, if they go off, you're going to want some big lefty thunder against whoever comes in out of the bullpen. You're very likely to get a lefty-righty matchup then. So those guys become a little bit more in play. You also just get monster premium contact numbers out of Jack Caglianone. We know that Vinny's a much better hitter than what he's been in the premium contact department and just across the board this year. So those are 2 good bats. I just think they get a little bit burnt being down lineup in a lefty-lefty situation when the team is stacking righties up toward the top. But this is where everybody who goes to the Royals is going to go, is just across these guys. I think you definitely want 3 of them, if not 4 of them in any given Royals lineup, but just considering the top 5 guys isn't necessarily the right way to look at it. Lane Thomas is very cheap for what we saw of him 2-3 years ago. Hasn't been that guy mostly since, but there's at least a little bit of quality for the super cheap price in the outfield. Good way to get things started if you're going to the Royals. Against the lefty bat, that's where he tends to find some success. But the Royals at a low total, not a great spot overall. Bobby Witt's the ultimate priority there, and a priority at shortstop among your premium options at the position. Good one-off at shortstop, even against the talented pitcher. 9 home runs, 16 steals, looking a lot like premium Bobby Witt. Michael Garcia has been a little bit off the mark this season, not struggling as badly as some of his teammates, finding similar contact to last year, but down in both premium contact categories. Not really struggling with strikeouts, but it's up slightly at 14.3. The walks are down slightly. There's just a little rough around the edges, but that's a very good player for the money at third base. 2,900 with second and outfield eligibility added on FanDuel. Makes him dynamite over there. Sal Perez has gotten really cheap for the right-handed power that he brings to bear against any lefty. 8.37 in the home run model. He's hit 9 on the season. That's been his high point as far as anything to talk about. Starling Marte at 24.23. Solid mixer, guy who's capable of getting on base, stealing a bag. Hasn't really hit for power so far this year. 283, 339, 340 over 59 chances, though. Getting on base a little bit. Just put the ball in play for me. Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell, just kind of mix and match guys down the bottom of the lineup. The Rangers going up against Kolek. They have been scuffling for the most part in home games. If you're going to this team, I think Brendan Nimmo is a priority. I think Jock Peterson's a priority. You take the 2 big lefties out of the top of the lineup, and then you're just dealing with mix and match righty power. I think Jake Berger's really interesting for that at 38, 32. That as a 3-man, I think is an interesting approach. Josh Young is not necessarily one you want to leave on the table, and you do have the ability to go outfield with Peterson, first base with Berger, outfield obviously on Nimmo, and then third with Young and build it out to a 5-man, in which case you're considering which of those guys from the bottom. I would probably lean toward like an Alejandro Osuna at 27. He's been somewhat interesting, 260, 400, 288. From the 7 spot, it's less than ideal wrapping them back around to those guys, but not impossible that a Jock Peterson home run delivers an Alejandro Osuna run. So I think that makes him kind of interesting if you're going for the 5-man. And you're talking about pretty fair price, right? We're looping through those top guys. That brings me to a $35.80 price tag on my 5-man per guy. 17.9 total. That's usable. It's not great, but there's left-handed premium contact with solid on-base numbers, solid ability to deliver low strikeout, hit tool-oriented play as well. Jock Peterson, much, much more just sell out for power, but he's been drawing the walk this year, managing strikeouts effectively, 244, 354, 420. So he is getting on base. He is creating runs, and he's got that massive left-handed power that we're looking for against a pitcher who's just going to allow a lot of contact. Keeps him very interesting. Young's having the best season we've seen from him. Love the upside there. Berger, again, just for power, 10 home runs on the board, solid premium contact numbers, among the best options on the team. And then an overperforming Ezekiel Duran, who's just a mix and match utility type. Bottom of the lineup with Danny Jansen. That's a mixable catcher who we've seen be a lot better than these 130 plate appearances. Hits for a little bit of power, 14 home runs and 337 chances last year, for example. Not a reliable bat, but a cheap one at a key position. And then Nicky Lopez is just the dead mid price on both sides. 12 empty plate appearances so far this season. Not much of a bat. Gore, Kolek, Rangers, Royals. Hilarious. Brewers 4.42 implied going up against the Astros with a 4.17. Coleman Crow is on the mound for Milwaukee. 5 innings and 5 1/3 in his first 2 starts. Again, those were going back a couple of one in April, one in mid-May. Has multiple 5 innings plus appearances in the minor leagues so far this season, pitching into a 4.89 ERA down on the farm, but has 39 strikeouts in 35 innings. There's some talent here going up against a gettable Astros team on a slate with a lot of guys that look kind of like this. You're just riding the even cheaper price from the bargain bin. He is one of the 2 usable guys in the $6,000 range on DraftKings. 75 on FanDuel feels a little bit unnecessary, but he's very cheap. On the Astros side, Kaiwei Teng at 75 feels usable on DK. 65 on FanDuel, maybe a dart throw. 2.19 ERA, but a near 4x FIP and SIERA, but those are still manageable numbers for a guy that's this cheap. A lot of innings in bulk relief, but several full starts, as I highlighted before. So I think we can use him. No earned runs in 2 full starts in his last 2 against Texas and the Cubs. 11 innings pitched, 4 total hits, 13 total strikeouts against 7 walks. The walks are the problem. That's where maybe he runs into it against the Brewers team that, doesn't draw a ton of walks, but they're just on base constantly. So the combination of his issues with the walk could push some upside toward the 9.5s, the 8.8s into the double digits. You've already got the other guys in double digits. beneficial situation for the Brewers. Love the run total. I like the Brewers side of that equation a little bit better than the Teng side, but I wouldn't be shocked if he came out and put up an effective day. Even found a few strikeouts, 24.8% strikeout rate, 10.3% swinging. Kind of interesting. So cheap dart throws on both guys on the mound, but that's all. Brewers bats, Christian Yelich. Back in our lives, back on form, 101 pretty good plate appearances so far. You just go to Christian Yelich if you're going to this team. Jackson Chourio at 267, 315, 384 with 1 home run, 5 steals. Give it a minute. You know, he missed the beginning of the season. It's 92 plate appearances deep. Nothing to worry about. We would like to see a little bit better output, but it's not for lack of ridiculous levels of premium contact at a 19% barrel and 50% hard hit. Just a 312 WOBA and 304 xWOBA, kind of surprising given that level of contact. Striking out way too much against that walk rate right now. He had brought that into nice form over the last 2 seasons though, so I would expect him to trend back towards excellent growing star caliber numbers. Bryce Turang, 54-42, fully priced, 276, 400, 459. Difficult to argue with the on-base skills. The counting stats are great. 7 home runs and 9 steals, a 146 WRC plus. Tremendous piece of this Brewers lineup. And, effective enough as far as the pricing goes. If you do just top 4 on FanDuel, 35-25, it's a little high. It's higher on DK too. Yeah, it becomes a $4,900 stack. They're difficult to reach with all 3 of those guys into the fives. William Contreras, definitely a part of it, especially probably more valuable to your DK slate where you need the catcher. 303, 371, 409 has been tremendous. Just 4 home runs on the board. The power output is maybe slowed, but excellent as far as the weighted on base numbers, the run creation numbers, and still very, very capable of driving the ball. Doubles count too. You get plenty of barrels out of Jake Bauers and Garrett Mitchell, 2 lefties with a little thunder. 8 home runs on the board for Bauers. He can also steal you a bag, getting on base at a great clip. He's been a big, big part of any success that these Brewers have had. Mitchell, a little bit more erratic as far as the output, 236, but a 349 on base, 379 slug is a question mark with only 3 home runs and 167 chances despite this kind of premium contact numbers. So really needs to put it together, but still a 110 WRC plus, not uninteresting in the outfield, maybe a little meaty as far as the price on DK at 42, 28 more manageable on FanDuel. Luis Rengifo, mix and match guy. Sal Frelick, mix and match guy who's kind of underperformed so far this year, more talented than those numbers. David Hamilton, solid mix and match performer. Taylor Trammell getting a shot in the leadoff role today. 359, 419, 487. We talked about how interesting he is at these very cheap prices yesterday during the short slate show. All of that remains true today. Hasn't found a ton of success at the major league level, but better numbers throughout the minor league career. Probably ultimately more a quad A player, 28 and a half years old now. So really needs to find it in an awful hurry if he's ever going to stick in the show. Probably bounces around, but that's a great price leading off against a gettable young starter who is, not achieved anything more than Taylor Trammell has so far in the show. Isaac Paredes, when we're back in the home yard, we can put the home run back on the board for him. 6 on the season, just needs to dunk one into that left field corner against a rookie. I think that's in the cards. When he's not hitting home runs, he is getting on base, setting the table for Jordan Alvarez, and all his power, his ridiculous season so far just rolls on. 450 WOBA, 497 xWOBA. That's insanely good. He is so talented. Monster hitter. Christian Walker at 43-36. We talked about the strikeouts being normalized back low again this year. 15 home runs. The power output's back along with that. Love the upside for Christian Walker. Don't sleep on Cam Smith. 13% barrels, 42% hard hits. Really struggling for output. 215, 305, 333. 5 home runs, 7 steals. Just remains interesting on that premium contact, on his ability to draw a walk. I think that's a good enough bat to make it into a stack at those prices in the outfield. And he's better than Braden Shoemake, Jake Myers, Nick Allen, Sizzler Salazar, who are all just mix and match guys as you go down that Astros lineup to save a little bit of time. This goes Brewers bats for sure. Astros bats. Cheap pitching in either order. They project essentially the same. I'll say Crow over Kaiwei Teng just because he's a little bit cheaper. And it's essentially the same level of faith that anything that we've seen is real for either guy. So I'll take the guy with the cheaper price tag in the slightly better matchup. Giants, Rockies, Coors Field. Don't take the pitch. Well, no, shit. It's Logan Webb. I forgot. We talked about Logan Webb's potential here. It was a leg injury. It was a knee injury, not an arm injury. 60-something pitches in his rehab outing, followed by a bullpen. I think 80 pitches should be our expectation here. That potentially gets Logan Webb into or maybe even through a 6th inning.
If these Rockies strike out a little bit, that could add to the pitch count total, but not in bad ways necessarily because he's still pitching efficiently. When you combine that with the ability to induce ground balls, weak and medium contact. And then if we're getting 90 pitches, we're really, really talking. 8,200, 8,000. I kept him limited to a 5-inning projection because I didn't want it to get away from us. And I continue to think 80 pitches, 5 innings should be on expectation. But there is a window through which he could have a much more significant day than that. You do take into account that he was struggling at the beginning of the year with that 5.06 ERA, but that was masking a spectacular 3.34 xFIP, 3.55 Sierra. That's also very good. Strikeouts were down slightly, but there was nothing really actually going on problematically with Logan Webb. Just some bad output, some bad results, but nothing really that was in his control. So I continue to love the pitcher. As soon as I know what the innings and the pitch count are going to look like, and we're next start back wherever it is, we're probably going to Logan Webb. Tons of strikeout. We would normally definitely be targeting this. And at these prices, I would be talking about this being like the best spot on the slate if I just had full faith in Logan Webb pitching his regular outing. Given the fact that we don't, I can't give it like that enthusiastic a stamp. Going the other way, Michael Lorenzen, I see no reason to play him other than the Giants have been scuffling throughout the year. But they come in at nearly a 6-run total that I think does a lot of the talking for us. Casey Schmidt, best season so far on this team, 291, 332, 555 with a dozen home runs on the board. But maybe Rafi Devers is starting to pull things together like we saw last year. Had a monster year when it was all said and done last year after some significant struggles. He's up to 7 home runs, 242, 286, 409 slash line. Still just a 288 xWOB under a 302 actual. Some concern there. Barrels are down, but they're into the double digits now. Hard hits are down, but they're at 48.6%, which is not a bad number. I continue to believe in Rafi Devers turning things around in a big, big way. At Coors Field against Michael Lorenzen, he's going to be the chalk of the day. Willie Adames at 43-33, 7 home runs, mix and match quality output as far as the slash line goes so far this year, but we know he's a lot better than that. Let me see if these lineups have come in while I'm talking about them. So Adames at just 43 at 33 at Coors Field. They did you some favors on some of these prices. That's a 30 home run player. Monster upside, and he's making similar contact to last year, down by a few percentage points in barrel, but we know he can gain that back. This is exactly what he did last season. Luis Arias, hit tool specialist. When you're playing in Coors Field, that kind of works here. If he's hitting second, it's miscasting him in the lineup. He should be leading off, but whatever. Singles play here. Doubles play here. There's upside for Luis Arias, more so than there is in a lot of ballparks. And at worst, you're getting a good correlated scoring piece ahead of the power bats. Matty Chapman, 41-32. Maybe Coors Field snaps him out of this funk. 229, 313, 317. Really ugly. Not making his usual levels of good contact. Really concerning. 1 home run on the board, 288 Wobo with a 262X. Ouch. But it's Coors Field, and he's only 4,100, 32 on FanDuel. They did not raise these prices enough. Daniel Susac, mix and match catcher, but 4,200 at Coors Field kind of works. 56 pretty good plate appearances so far this year. Bryce Eldridge is only 3,000. The kid over his first 53 plate appearances has a 9.1% barrel and a 57.6% hard hit. You don't want that at Coors Field? I think you do. First base on DraftKings, $2,800 outfielder on FanDuel. Same thing. You fire that share. 170, 264, 277 just hasn't found the output for the contact he's made. 1 home run. But this is one of their top prospects, a significant prospect across baseball, and he is dirt cheap at Coors Field. Take advantage against a nothing pitcher. Harrison Bader, mix and match quality, but again, very, very cheap for it being Coors Field. Drew Gilbert, same deal. On the Rockies side, going up against Logan Webb, I don't love it. You can see what Webb does to the home run numbers. Even Hunter Goodman buried below even halfway to the magic number. Not a ton of upside, but a 4.81 implied total. Maybe Vegas sees it a little bit differently. Once we get into the Giants' pen, there's a little quality. Wouldn't shock me if the Rockies had a 5-6 run day when it's all said and done, but difficult to target on this side of lock. What they are is at least affordable through some of these bats. Jake McCarthy, Tyler Freeman, 2 capable major league hitters off the top. Not out to great starts to their season. Both guys substandard WRC plus marks, up and down level careers, but filler type players, util type players, perfectly fine to use in a Rocky stack when they're at the top of the lineup. TJ Rumfield, one of their better bats this season at 281, 359, 448, 117 WRC plus, excellent weighted on base numbers, low strikeout, medium walk rate. Okay for premium contact. We wish we could get a little bit more barrel, a little bit more hard hit. He'd become a much better player pretty quickly. 42 really works at first on DraftKings, 35 on FanDuel. I'll pay it if I'm determined to go to Rockies, but again, it's not a good spot against Logan Webb. Goodman, very high priority, but not the greatest day in the world to roster Hunter Goodman as like your one-off of the day with power upside at catcher for a fair price, just because of the matchup against Logan Webb, who's spectacular, keeping the ball on the ground in the yard and so on and so forth. Troy Johnston, lefty with a little bit of ability at 314, 376, 432. He's been very interesting, but suffering from the same thing as his partner TJ Rumfield on the other lefty in the lineup. Just lackluster as far as the output for premium contact, more so. 2 home runs, 2 steals, 118 WRC plus. He's been good, but not great at creating DFS events. Maybe some doubles will get into play here against downside of Logan Webb in the bullpen, though. Willie Castro, mix and match piece, multi-position. Ezekiel Tovar, really struggling to find any kind of quality this year. There's just too much swing and miss in his game in general and hasn't found the power stroke at all this year. Edward Julian, I was expecting a little bit more quality, 203, 298, 286, kind of scuffling as far as the slash line goes, but at a league average, at least 320 xWOBA, and not uninteresting as far as the contact goes. A guy who can draw the walk, but again, against Logan Webb, not a great spot. Kyle Karros, just a mixer. Giants bats, Logan Webb for 5 innings, 6 innings, hopefully, is probably number 2, just because of what he takes away from the Rockies in such a big way. Rockies bats number 3, even with that 4.81 implied total, and wouldn't really consider Michael Lorenzen even against the Giants. The Yankees are the spot of the day, 5.11 implied total. Tons of power in this lineup. Surprisingly, only 2 of them above the magic number, but some other guys closing right in on it. And by the time the slate updates in a little bit, 6:08, we got to hurry through this. By the time we get the update in, those numbers might go up here against the corpse of Luis Severino. Much better season on the road so far this year. 4.23 ERA, 4.03 xFIP, 4.16 Sierra. Really struggles with the long ball in this park, as evidenced by all of last year, by most of this year, excepting one good start against the Royals. That said, 24.2% strikeout rate. You can exploit that a little bit against the Yankees. They do strike out quite a bit. My money firmly with the New York Yankees in this one. I think everybody's is going to be. They're going to be popular, but I think they're worth going to. And there are some points of differentiation still down through the bottom of this lineup. Ryan McMahon is one of those, especially with a lefty bat against a scuffling righty at such cheap pricing. McMahon's up to 5 home runs. He's hit most of those fairly recently. He's starting to come around for the season. This is a multi-time 20 home run hitter. Just years and years in a row. A lot of it came in Colorado, but we get similar upside for from the ballpark here. He's got a 9.6% barrel, a 48.9% hard hit on the season. He's been striking the ball effectively, just really struggling to find the output. But that's a sneaky, really good bat down lineup if he's in the lineup. Austin Wells, playable catcher. You're just hunting for the one good bat at ball event. He's hit 4 home runs. 6.5% barrel, 45.7% hard hit. He's also drawing good walks, 13.7% walk rate that maybe helps him out against Severino here. Sevy's walking 11.7% of opposing hitters. That also plays in the Yankees' favor, with all the top of the lineup drawing either ridiculous or at least double-digit walk rates on the season. That's going to be problematic for Sevy. That also feeds the run creation engine for the Yanks, even when they're not homering. Trent Grisham has had a problematic start to his season as far as the output, 206, 325, 389, but he's been terrific under the surface, 13.7% barrel rate, 343 xWOBA, continued faith, and he's at a 105 WRC plus even with the struggles. He's just cheap at the top of the lineup that you absolutely want to get today. Aaron Judge, 64-42 is just Aaron Judge in this situation, 17 home runs. He hit the bricks a little bit, hit the skids a little bit. Hit the bricks means something different. Hit the skids a little bit in recent weeks, but we know he's going to come roaring back. Already started that process. 252, 385, 54, 17 home runs. Right there with him is Mr. Ben Rice at 17.6% barrels, carrying 16 home runs into play today. 293, 83, 623. Another player come down a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but love him to come roaring back. Still carrying a 428 weighted on base with a 403 xWOBA, 177 WRC plus. And Mr. Ben Rice, despite being a popular play today, 10.01, happens to be the home run pick of the day. Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, massive playability across both those guys. If Goldie's in the lineup, fire away even against a righty, no problem. 45, 3,000. Had a very good start to his season, 5 home runs on the board. Most of his quality these days comes against lefties, but I'm still a big believer in he's making great contact, seeing the ball well, low strikeout, high walk rate right now. Ideal and potentially lower owned going up against Sevy here. First base, maybe not the ideal way to fill that position. But within the Yankees stack, you've got some flexibility on FanDuel. You lose him to Ben Rice every time on DraftKings, though. So problematic positioning there. On FanDuel, it's less of a problem because you can obviously use the util spot. Jazzy Chisholm at 46-31 probably doesn't go low owned here. I wish he would. 6 home runs, 13 steals, 246, 324, 400. Lefty bat with a lot of thunder in it. I don't think that's going to fool anybody in this situation against Sevy. I want plenty of shares of Jazz within my FanDuel lineups with that second base and third base eligibility. Makes it nice when I'm not using McMahon to be able to go there and then take another high quality second baseman at a bad position. That bolsters your lineup a little bit. Cody Bellinger, former MVP, having a good year, 271, 373, 487. I know I'm bouncing around this lineup. He's driving the ball pretty effectively with that 216 ISO, 143 WRC plus. Tremendous source of run creation, whose price just doesn't move off of that 5,051 range. 37 on FanDuel, outfield eligible on FanDuel helps. Outfield and first base. Jose Caballero is interesting for his ability to get to first base and steal a bag, maybe reset the table for the bottom of the order. If you're going to McMahon and Wells, taking Caballero along for the ride is not crazy. It's more doable on FanDuel, though, where you get the second, third, and outfield eligibility along with it. Just a shortstop on DraftKings is not great. There are more impactful plays at shortstop, but he is very usable and he's affordable over there. 4 home runs, 13 steals on the year. The Athletics, not off the board. They've got Colby Thomas leading off today at 36-24. They're going up against Carlos Rodon, who's been interesting but not overly effective in his first couple starts. 28.8% strikeout, but it's come with an 18.6% walk. That amounts to 7 strikeouts and 3 walks, 6 strikeouts and 3 walks, 4 strikeouts and 5 walks in the first start going backward in time. That was against the Blue Jays, the Mets, and the Brewers. Rodon usable here at 77-82. Had he been more stretched out, a more complete season with some more success visible, I would maybe be endorsing the spot more enthusiastically, given the cheap pricing. What I do think he is a very interesting DraftKings SP2 at 77. A lot of strikeout potential against the Athletics lineup that can feed you some strikeout. 22.3% for this confirmed lineup this year, 25-3, 24-9 in the last 2 years for the guys who were in the league. Nick Kurtz remains very threatening, though, even lefty here, 57, 4,000. He's got 8 home runs. He's also getting on at a 430 clip and could easily just draw like 3 walks against Carlos Rodon if Rodon's erratic today. Love the upside for Kurtz and probably goes lighter owned than he ought to on the lower end side of this game, but the A's coming in at a 4.50 total is interesting. And the lefty of it. Thomas, just the mix and match guy, but 38 plate appearances of effectiveness so far. Interesting enough bat for cheap in the leadoff role ahead of the big Thunder bats. Shea Langoliers, 58, very expensive at catcher, but worthwhile. 38, you pretend he's a first baseman on FanDuel. 13 home runs, 298, 369, 543. Brent Rooker, lacking in slash line, surprisingly over 163 plate appearances. That's old Brent Rooker. That's bad Brent Rooker. We don't want that. This is a hitter that we love now after he made significant strides, improved everything about his game over the last 3 years. 7 home runs at least in 163 chances, still making interesting contact, 14% barrels. We just got to give him time to figure it out. He's too smart of a hitter not to. Tyler Soderstrom, 11.4% barrels, very interesting. Again, even lefty here. I'll take my chances if I'm going A's. 209, 292, 398 helps out the Carlos Rodon side of the argument, though. Both those hitters are really struggling. Again, does feed some quality for Carlos Rodon, but both those hitters could easily break out in this spot, too. Rodon not invulnerable to power despite the 0% home run rate in his 3 starts. Last season, 2.79. Year before, 4.21 in a more complete season. Down the lineup, Henry Bolte's interesting. Hasn't done much at the plate. 279, 373 is good on the front end, but hasn't been hitting for power. That is supposed to be his game, though. 45.5% hard hit. Yet to barrel the ball. Once he does, maybe he finds it and starts becoming more interesting. Playable piece in the outfield, but just a mixer right now. Zach Geloff has given us a little bit more on the season, but he's already starting to crater around the edges. 246, 297, and 437. 6 home runs, 6 steals, though. That's Zach Geloff doing his Zach Geloff thing. Former 2020 type talent. Definitely playable at 43, at 29 on FanDuel with second and third. Jeff McNeil, slap hitter, mix and match piece. Darrell Arnaiz, lesser slap hitter, lesser mix and match piece. Yankees bats in a big way. A's bats. Carlos Rodon. Sevy, if you want to throw a couple darts, do it on DraftKings at 64 as an SP2, and it's just a wild card play on some strikeout potential against the Yanks. The Yanks disappoint in big spots from time to time. Nothing quantifiable about that. It's just a major dart throw in like the worst spot on the slate, though. The Diamondbacks, Zach Gallen, George Kirby, low totals for both of these teams. We want pitching in this game. Even with Kirby kind of bumping along 3.54 ERA, matching xFIP and Sierras, strikeouts are down a little bit at 19.8, 5.8% walk. Still a very good pitcher, 26% strikeout last year, 4.21 ERA with a near 3 xFIP. Tremendous upside going up against a scuffling Diamondbacks team that is short overall. I know they've overperformed down lineup. I've talked about this a ton. These are the only 3 hitters that I actually really believe in this projected version of the Diamondbacks lineup. I continue to think that Nolan Arenado is mostly shot despite a little bit of a visible return to form so far. 334 xWOBA is above average, but it backs up that he's been overperforming at least at that 356 actual. There is a little bit of power on the board with 7 home runs, but it hasn't come on any kind of premium contact. That swing is still long and loopy and slow. I don't love it. Araldo Perdomo is really still struggling. 2 home runs, 8 steals. He is getting on at a 336 clip at least. That's supporting some upside, but only a 94 WRC plus. You can see some quality in the xWOBA, but that's nowhere near the player that he was last year. Really needs to find it again, but he's gotten awfully cheap at shortstop for one of the higher end shortstops from last season. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, the 2 stars on this team. Marte's pulled himself together at 276, 326, 476 with a 124 WRC plus. Fantastic 381 xWOBA. He's up to 9 home runs. Corbin Carroll, we were expecting a dip in power. I think we're seeing it a little bit. He's hit 7 homers. He's been terrific across the board at 293, 392, 553. He's making very good contact, but I think the long ball is going to be a little bit lacking from maybe pre-injury expectations with that hamate bone issue that I've been bringing up basically all season. 56, 4,000. He's fully priced. Well worth it if you're going D-backs. Then you kind of hit, Ryan Waldschmidt, high-end prospect for them, hitting for average, getting on base a little bit, but not a ton of output so far. It does have 5 stolen bases and a 121 WRC plus. Has been good and playable, but not major DFS scoring events by and large. Ilimar Vargas, we've talked about throughout this ridiculous overperformance. The player overperforming his talent by the most so far this season. 303, 330, 483, a 126 WRC plus. League average 320 xWOBA. Even that, I think, is an overperformance. 354 actual. Gabriel Moreno is really interesting. Premium contact, the ability to draw a walk as a cheap catcher at 3,600 on DK. Entirely playable because this team lacks a first baseman on FanDuel at 27. 252, 314, 402. Just 3 homers, but again, interesting contact numbers that he can back up with some of what he's done in previous seasons. Adrian Del Castillo is an interesting second catcher option, 31-26. Only 193, 253, 33, but 4 home runs and some interesting contact out of him over the last season plus. And then Tommy Troy, just a mixer in the outfield. The Mariners going up against Zach Gallen, who's pitched to a 4.80 ERA, but a 4.24 xFIP that's more interesting, 4.34 Sierra. Not really finding the strikeout stuff at all this year. Last year he was only at 21.5. He was a 25% strikeout pitcher the year before. I think he's basically the guy we saw throughout last year, so maybe a little bit better than this number, and the xFIP to Sierra back that up, but certainly not the formerly, at least, upper middle type talent of Gallen. He's no longer priced like that guy. It's a gettable Mariners team. It's a pitcher friendly situation. 379 implied total for the Mariners. That said, I do like these Mariners bats more than their quality's been. I think we all know that Julio Rodriguez is much better than his line has been so far, even though he does come in with a 118 WRC plus, 10 homers on the board. He's even better than that. Josh Naylor, we know for sure, is better than his 99 WRC plus. The 339 xWOBA backs that up. JP Crawford gets on base a lot. 338 on base. The quality overall comes and goes. He's hit 7 early home runs that are kind of a surprise this year, but that's a playable piece at shortstop at worst. He's 4,000, 2,800. He's affordable. Randy Arozarena carried this team early. 295, 382, 464, 6 home runs, 14 stolen bases, a 147 WRC plus. Luke Raley at 45, 3,000. A lot of lefty power there. And Dominic Canzone, 2 spots later, a lot of lefty power from him as well. 11 home runs out of Raley is outstanding so far. Only 5 from Canzone in fewer plate appearances, but similar premium contact, 14.9% barrel, 48.3% hard hit. Don't sleep on Dom Canzone, that lefty. If you're going to Mariners, that's really interesting where he's priced on DK. 26 on FanDuel, also cheaper than Raley over there. You can get Raley at first base over there if you're not using Josh Naylor. There's mix and match throughout this lineup. Cole Young at 31-28. Playable, but not great over his 224 chances. Just a 99 WRC plus, right around league average xWOBA with a worse actual. The interesting down lineup guy, if you're looking for infield, is Colt Emerson, their big prospect. 258, 361, 516, and 36 plate appearances since the call-up last week. He's homered. 152 WRC plus in the tiny sample. One of the top prospects in baseball. They gave him a big extension before he ever even played in the show. That's a good piece. Third base eligible on both sides for a fair price. George Kirby. Zach Gallen, but really only because he's cheap. I really don't trust him. Mariners bats over Diamondbacks bats. Last game up, Zach Wheeler entirely playable against the Dodgers. Justin Robleski, especially on FanDuel for 9, I really question against the Phillies. 13% strikeout. He's pitched to a 3.07 ERA, but he's got a 4.8 xFIP, a 4.87 Sierra. Do we really want to use that guy on a robust pitching slate against a hard-hitting team like the Phils? Even at that sub-4 implied total, I think we know we don't. We've got Kyle Schwarber, a high-danger hitter there. We've got Bryce Harper, a high-danger hitter there. Those 2 guys are your priority bats if you're going to the Phillies. That's incredibly obvious. The interesting thing about the Phillies is look how dirt cheap everybody else on DraftKings is. Even Trey Turner at 44. That's cheap for Trey Turner. But sub-3 on everyone else, you've got a lot of scuffling hitters here. Don't be that surprised that they're that cheap. But Alec Boehm at 28 is so usable. 212, 273, 328 is not the hitter that Alec Boehm has been throughout his entire career. He's up to 5 home runs. He's found some very good days recently. 42.9% hard hits, even with the struggles. There's quality there. Frequency of balls in play is definitely still there. 13.9% strikeouts, 7.2% walks. Just been really, really unfortunate on batted ball events. Don't leave Alec Boehm at that cheap a price out of too many lineups at third base. JT Realmuto, a usable catcher at 2,900. Pair of home runs, 1 stolen base, 233, 306, 317. He's more just a guy these days, but just getting to the heart of the lineup to round out a stack from a catcher that's that cheap has its value on DK. He's a lot less relevant on the FanDuel slate. Adelise Garcia, I continue to believe in the surge. He's at 201, 287, 312, 4 home runs, 2 steals, a 299 xWOBA, but there's not a lot other than the premium contact that is at least reminiscent of who he used to be. We talked about Adelise recently. The bat speed's actually gone up a little bit. He's really struggling with some things, but there's something there. I'm not giving up just yet. 27, 26. I actually did give up in the Dynasty League. He was the salary that I sent out for salary matching purposes for Tanner for the Bybee trade. The actual trade was Bybee for Grant Taylor. But Garcia here, totally usable, especially if he's higher up in the lineup. Edmundo Sosa, mix and match piece with a little bit of quality, ability to hit for average, not demonstrated in these 94 plate appearances, but take my word for it. Justin Crawford, their top prospect, hasn't really comported himself all that well in his first 175 chances in the show. Might need more seasoning. Not striking out, not really drawing the walk, but 231, 297, 338 is problematic. And then Otto Kemp is a mixer down the bottom of the lineup. On the Dodgers side, at last check, no Shohei Ohtani on FanDuel, which is weird, but too bad. If he's there, I'll pop him back in for the update that's forthcoming. Monster, obviously, on DraftKings with first base eligibility, which is nice, but that's a blocker to Freddie. Does give you the ability to move things around at least a little bit, though. You want Ohtani at any price. Andy Pajas at 55-36, definitely very, very playable. Great start to his year at over 228 plate appearances, 13 home runs to sit second on this team. Mookie Betts sliding down to a cleanup spot today, 4,500, 3,100, 6 home runs, showing a little bit of quality recently. A lot of batted balls of high caliber recently. 182, 244, 09, I think is uncharacteristically low. You guys probably agree. 96 pretty bad plate appearances overall, but very high end and cheap now that he struggled. Freddie, entirely usable, cheap on FanDuel at 3,200, 271, 368, 462. The batting average is down, but I don't really care. 7 home runs, 136 WRC plus, and an elite 390 xWOBA under the covers that says we'll gain back anything we've lost. 12.3% barrel rate. Kyle Tucker, bumping his way along in his first year in Los Angeles, not earning his $500 million so far. 4 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 245, 345, 398. He's been effective, but not superstar effective, not even matching his $5,000, $3,500 pricing effective, but you don't skip Kyle Tucker against Zach Wheeler if you're going to the Dodgers anyway. If you're going to the Dodgers against Zach Wheeler. Max Muncy, you don't skip either. Monster lefty, 3 true outcomes hitter. Zach Wheeler might sit him down 3 times, but he might also hit a 3-run home run in that 4th plate appearance if they line up 4 times. Maybe it's 2 and 1. You know what I mean. Will Smith, one of the more playable catchers at 3,800. Alex Call and Alex Freeland mix and match pieces at their positions down the bottom of the lineup. They are facing Zach Wheeler, though. One of the best righties in baseball. 10-3, 10-9. Usable. You're taking on a big challenge, but the Dodgers, 4-1-4 implied total. You're taking a half run away from the average pitcher. Wheeler striking out 25-5 with an 11.4% swinging strike rate, an excellent 1.67 ERA with an elite 2.99 xFIP. We probably come in around a 3 when it's all said and done, but we know how good Zach Wheeler can be, induces weak and medium contact. Would not surprise me if he went out and had a day against the Dodgers. Recent form on Wheeler, 6 innings, 7 innings in the 2 most recent starts, 7 1/3 back on the 12th. 6 1/3, 6. So pitching deep into ball games. If all goes to plan, I see no reason he wouldn't complete the 6th inning and potentially pitch beyond it. So definitely can get there. He is high priced for facing the Dodgers, though. They can bend that in a hurry. That is your show, gang. Holy hell. Ben Rice was your home run pick of the day. Maybe he's a little bit obvious. Apologies for that. One last time, been scrolling across the bottom of your screen all show long. Jump into rotoscouts.com for free, for a free weekly, free first week, thanks to our pal XX Cubs celebrating his win. We have 30 of those, maybe fewer now if people have been taking advantage. Free first week gets you access to MLB, NBA, NHL, and NFL. Well, not NFL this week. I keep saying that. Promo code is Cubs Win at checkout on a weekly plan, weeklies only. First week is free. Will renew if you don't cancel it. Will renew after a week at regular price, which is under $7 for a week. Hopefully you stick around for more. Oh my God. Click the links in the description below. Discord's link down there. Join our Discord. It's totally free. Join the community. Come hang out. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results at Rotoscouts on Twitter or in that Discord when you do. We'll be back on Monday for more content throughout the weekend as usual. Later, gang.